Chapter 2798, Chapter 2798, Karma. Chapter 2798, Karma. In reality, Su Zimo had already discovered this problem when he was in the Evil Fiend battlefield. When they first entered the Evil Fiend battlefield, they encountered an attack from a group of Rakshasas. One of them, a female Rakshasa, released a quasi-peerless divine power, time stop, creating an opening in the myriad sword formation. If that was already the case for quasi-peerless divine powers, once the actual peerless divine power, astral imprisonment, descended, it could naturally break the myriad sword formation of Lin Xuanjin and the others. Feng Su frowned and asked, "But how did Lin Xuanjin suffer such serious injuries? Where's her blessed heaven world badge?" He was puzzled. Although Wang Dong, Gong Suanyu and the others were injured, their lives were not in danger. As for Lin Xuanjin, her combat strength was the strongest. How could her injuries be more serious than Wang Dong and the others? Lu Yun and Yu Lan remained silent with livid expressions. Su Zimo's spirit consciousness swept past Lin Xuanjin, and he suddenly frowned. She burned her essence spirit? Lu Yun sighed and wanted to speak but hesitated. "It's all our fault." Right then, Wang Dong said in a low voice with a guilty expression, "At that time, we were imprisoned by Xiang Ming's peerless divine power and our lives were on the line. We had no chance of escaping from the Evil Fiend battlefield." Senior Sister Lin suddenly summoned the immortal vanquishing sword and severed the imprisonment, telling us to leave quickly. We didn't think too much about it at that time. It was only after we returned to the blessed Heaven World Square that we realized that Senior Sister Lin had used a secret skill to burn her essence spirit, allowing her to release the immortal vanquishing sword at the power of a peerless divine power to break through astral imprisonment. Upon hearing that, everyone who heard it was moved. This was equivalent to Lin Xuanjin sacrificing herself to save Wang Dong, Gong Suanyu, and the others. Lin Xuanjin cultivated the Sever Sword Dao and was usually rather cold to people and things. However, at the critical moment, she was so resolute and made such a choice. Wang Dong said, after Senior Sister Lin burned her essence spirit, her strength deteriorated rapidly and she suffered a backlash. Her blessed heaven world badge was also snatched away by Xiang Ming. Gong Suanyu's eyes were red as he said sadly, "If I had known earlier, I would definitely have stayed by Senior Sister Lin's side and fought alongside her." Yu Lan shook her head. "It's useless even if you guys stayed. You would have just been committing suicide. Xuanjin did this because she wanted you guys to survive." In reality, Wang Dong and the others were not cowards. However, at that time, the situation was critical. Wang Dong and the others thought that Lin Xuanjin would return to the blessed heaven world immediately like them. Unexpectedly, after Lin Xuanjin burned her essence spirit and released the immortal vanquishing sword, she suffered a violent backlash. Thereafter, she was entangled by Xiang Ming and the others and did not have the chance to use the blessed heaven world badge to leave. Everyone could clearly see that Lin Xuanjin was in an extremely poor state and was already at the end of her rope. Even her essence spirit was severely injured and filled with cracks. The few Immortal King experts present were helpless against such injuries. Even if they brought Lin Xuanjin back to the sword world now and looked for an emperor to step in, it would be too late. Lin Xuanjin would not be able to hold out until then. Yu Lan had a sorrowful expression as she looked at the unconscious Lin Xuanjin in her arms with pity in her eyes. Lin Xuanjin was the strongest perfected immortal of this generation of Sever Sword Peak, and her future achievements were limitless. To think that she would encounter such a calamity in the Evil Fiend battlefield. For the Sword World, the death of Lin Xuanjin would be an irreparable loss as well. Su Zimo had plans on dealing with Lin Xuanjin's injuries, and he was not in a hurry. Another question flashed through his mind. Xiang Ming snatched Lin Xuanjin's blessed heaven world badge away. How did she return? The reason why the Heavenly Eye world came so menacingly was to take revenge. Back in the Seven-Star Sword World, most of the Heavenly Eye race living beings who died were killed by Lin Xuanjin. Naturally, Xiang Ming would pin this blood debt on Lin Xuanjin and would definitely not let her off. However, How could Lin Xuanjin return to the Blessed Heaven World Square without the Blessed Heaven World Badge and under the gazes of Xiang Ming and the others? At the mention of that, Wang Dong, Gong Suanyu and the others had conflicted expressions, as though they were ashamed, confused, and puzzled. In the end, it was Shunyu who stood out and stammered. That female ape saved senior sister Lin. Su Zimo was stunned. There were 10 spatial nodes in the evil fiend battlefield that would change frequently. In 10 days, it was difficult for living beings of the Trichiliacosm to find a spatial node. However, it might not be difficult for the evil fiends and sin spirits who lived there all year round to find a spatial node. Xinyu continued. The female ape carried senior sister Lin on her back and fled all the way under the pursuit of Xiang Ming and the others, sending senior sister Lin into a spatial node. The entire courtyard suddenly fell silent. Everyone witnessed what happened in the cave a few days ago. It was because of Su Zimo's persistence that the female ape survived. For that reason, Xinyu and the others even had some arguments with Su Zimo. In fact, they persuaded him to leave the evil fiend battlefield. Xinyu and the others could not stand or understand Su Zimo's benevolence. In their hearts, the evil fiends and sin spirits inside were all heinous and vicious beings. There was no need for them to be merciful. Killing the evil fiends and sin spirits was equivalent to enforcing justice on behalf of the heavens. Lin Xuanjin had once told Su Zimo that he was not suitable for the evil fiend battlefield. Even if he saved that female ape, this beast would repay kindness with ingratitude in the future. But now, it was the female ape, the sin spirit that everyone was talking about, who saved Lin Xuanjin from Xiang Ming and the others. This matter made Wang Dong, Gong Suanyu, Xinyu and the others doubt themselves for the first time. Were the evil fiends and sin spirits inside really ferocious and vicious beings? Why did this female ape know how to repay kindness? If they had killed the female ape back then, Lin Xuanjin would not have been able to leave the evil fiend battlefield and would have probably endured insufferable humiliation in the hands of Xiang Ming. Were they wrong? Everyone was puzzled, confused, filled with doubts, and also relieved. Thankfully, Su Zimo's persistence saved the female ape's life. That was also the reason why Lin Xuanjin could escape from Xiang Ming's pursuit. This was karma. These people did not realize that if not for their resistance and rejection towards Su Zimo, the scene before them might not have happened. That in itself was yet another result of karma. After a long silence, Su Zimo asked, "What happened to the female ape after that?" Wang Dong, Shunyu, and the others lowered their heads. After an unknown period of time, Shunyu said softly, "She's dead." He did not dare to look up or meet Su Zimo's eyes. He would never forget the scene he saw through the gigantic screen. The female ape broke through countless attacks to save Lin Xuanjin and fled the entire way. She was chased by Xiang Ming and the others and was covered in injuries. However, she protected Lin Xuanjin with all her might and escaped into a spatial node, using the last bit of her strength to send Lin Xuanjin out. The evil fiends and sin spirits inside could not leave through the spatial node. The female ape could no longer run and was caught by Xiang Ming and the others. She was killed effortlessly as though an ant was crushed. It was just a sin spirit. Her death shouldn't have been significant. However, for some unknown reason, Xinyu felt guilty the entire time. Perhaps it was towards Su Zimo, perhaps it was towards the female ape. Su Zimo closed his eyes expressionlessly. Everyone was immersed in sadness, and no one noticed him. Only Baiming Shui could vaguely sense that her master was truly enraged. Chapter 2799. Chapter 2799. Entering the Evil Fiend Battlefield Again. Chapter 2799. Entering the Evil Fiend Battlefield Again. Li 0. Let's go back. After a long time, Lu Yun took a deep breath and said, "The fallen leaves return to their roots. No matter what, we have to bring Lin Xuanjin back to the Sword World." This trip to the Blessed Heaven World could be considered a complete failure for the Sword World. Yesterday, the battle merits of Wang Dong and the others were transferred to Lin Xuanjin's Blessed Heaven World Badge. There were already 1,000 battle merits. But now, the IOO battle merits were snatched away by Xiangming as well. Most importantly, the number 1 perfected immortal of the sword world, Lin Xuanjin, was severely injured and on the verge of death. This was a huge blow to everyone in the sword world. Lin Xuanjin can still be saved. Right then, a voice sounded. Everyone looked over, and instantly, their gazes landed on Su Zimo. There were thousands of sword cultivators in the courtyard who were initially from the 7-star sword world. They did not know much about Su Zimo. They only knew that he was the peak master of the 9th sword peak, but his cultivation realm was not high. Although everyone did not say anything, they had their doubts. Even the Immortal King experts present were helpless. What could a perfected immortal do? Lu Yun looked at Su Zimo and seemed to have thought of something. His eyes lit up as he asked hurriedly, "For real? Brother Su, can you really save Xuanjin?" Yulan looked at Su Zimo with a trembling voice. "Leave it to me." Su Zimo had a calm expression. "Put Lin Xuanjin in her room. Everyone, wait outside and don't disturb us." Yulan was still hesitant when Lu Yun nudged her gently and sent a voice transmission with his spirit consciousness. "Man, you're so concerned that you're flustered. Don't forget Su Zhu's bloodline." Yulan was delighted to hear Lu Yun's reminder. Back then, Bai Mingxue was even more severely injured than Lin Xuanjin during the Tribulation Transcendence. If Su Zhu could save her, Xuanjin would definitely be fine. At that thought, Yulan hurriedly carried Lin Xuanjin into a room at the side. Su Zimo followed suit and closed the door after Yulan left. To Su Zimo, it was not difficult to save Lin Xuanjin. There was also the Soraka fruit in his storage bag. Using the Soraka fruit to nourish Lin Xuanjin's essence spirit injuries, and coupled with the Lotus Life Finger, he could inject life force into Lin Xuanjin's body continuously. Under continuous stimulation, Lin Xuanjin would gradually recover. Everyone from the sword world waited in the courtyard and prayed silently. It was already the 8th day since they arrived in the blessed heaven world. There were only 2 days left. Lu Yun and the others believed in Su Zimo's methods, but they were not sure if 2 days were enough. The wait seemed to be extremely long and torturous. Finally, after another day and a half, the door to that room finally opened. Su Zimo stood at the door, his face slightly pale. Continuous healing for an entire day and a half took a considerable toll on him. "How's everything?" Lu Yun, Yulan, and the others looked nervous and uneasy. Su Zimo did not say anything and merely nodded. Lu Yun, Yulan, and the others were overjoyed. Wang Dong, Gong Suanyu, and the others could not help but shout as well. If Lin Xuanjin was truly alive, they would suffer less guilt in their hearts. Even if they did not obtain any battle merits on this trip, they would not have lost much either. The 4 peak masters, Wang Dong, Gong Suanyu, and the others were concerned about Lin Xuanjin and moved one after another, pouring into the room. "She might be asleep for a while," Su Zimo said. "Time is a little tight. Her injuries have yet to recover, and she still has to recuperate for a period of time." Everyone could see it clearly. Lin Xuanjin lay flat on the bed. Although she was still unconscious, her complexion had already recovered and her breathing was stable. The cracks on her essence spirit had already disappeared and the life force in her body was gradually recovering. "She's alive. She's alive." Yulan was excited. Lu Yun and the others were all smiles as well. The remaining sword world cultivators gathered at the door and looked in as well. Everyone's attention was on Lin Xuanjin, and almost no one noticed that someone had left the residence silently. Only Bai Mingxue saw his back view through the gaps in the crowd. However, she did not say anything or stop him. That was because she knew where her master was going and what he was going to do. Su Zimo left the residence with a dark expression and headed straight for the Blessed Pavilion. He had to seek justice regarding this matter, be it for Lin Xuanjin, the sword world, or the female ape he had only met once. He had to enter the evil fiend battlefield again. If he was not wrong, Xiangming and the others should still be in the evil fiend battlefield. There was still half a day left until the 10-day deadline. For Su Zimo, that was enough. Before long, Su Zimo arrived at the Blessed Pavilion. After entering the Blessed Pavilion, he turned right and headed straight for the Blessed Heaven World Square. At that moment, many living beings from the various worlds were still gathered in the Blessed Heaven World Square. When they saw Suzimo enter, many people started discussing softly. "Look, isn't that the new peak master of the 9th sword peak of the Sword World?" The 8 people of the Sword World returned in defeat. "I heard that the number 1 perfected immortal, Lin Xuanjin, could not even survive. Why is this person here again? Could he be here to take revenge on Xiangming of the Heavenly Eye World?" Someone said in a mocking manner. "Is he going to commit suicide?" "Ha." A burst of laughter sounded from the crowd. In the Blessed Heaven World, killing and fighting were not allowed. Coupled with the fact that Lin Xuanjin and the others of the Sword World were severely injured, it was naturally inevitable that they would attract criticism and ridicule. A young dragon said with a fake smile, "Everyone, don't forget that he's a peak master of the Sword World." The disciples of the Sword World were beaten up until they peed their pants and lost their armor. Naturally, the peak master of the 9th sword peak has to stand out and seek justice for the disciples of the Sword World to regain their dignity. Although the dragon spoke seriously, everyone could hear the mockery in his tone. A burly barbarian grinned. "If he really dares to enter the evil fiend battlefield to cause trouble for Xiangming, I'll respect him as a man. How arrogant and ignorant must he be to dare enter the evil fiend battlefield alone with a cultivation of the celestial being realm? A god race being sneered." Suzimo had a calm expression and ignored the discussions around him. He merely stared at the 10 gigantic screens in midair, searching for the locations of Xiangming and the others. When everyone saw Suzimo standing motionlessly in the Blessed Heaven World Square, they thought that he was afraid. Some busybodies were afraid that there would not be anything interesting to watch and egged on. "Hey, Peak Master, are you afraid? Xiangming of the Heavenly Eye Race has already bullied your Sword World. As a Peak Master, don't be afraid. Go take revenge on the Heavenly Eye Race." "That's right, kill Xiangming." "Haha." A celestial being perfected immortal of the Sword World barging into the evil fiend battlefield single-handedly to fight a supreme perfected spirit of the Heavenly Eye World. Imagine how awesome that would sound. Even if you die, your name will be passed down for eternity. Are you looking for Xiangming and the others? They're in Area 3. In the crowd, Suzimo finally heard a useful piece of information. Through the 3rd gigantic screen, he quickly locked onto Xiangming's location in Area 3. Suzimo retracted his spirit consciousness with a calm expression and walked to the teleportation formation. With a flash of light, he disappeared from the Blessed Heaven World Square. Chapter 2800, Chapter 2800. I'm here to kill you. Chapter 2800. I'm here to kill you. Looking at Suzimo's disappearing figure, the living beings in the Blessed Heaven World Square were stunned and could not react for a moment. Is the Peak Master of the 9th Sword Peak a fool? He really went in? Although everyone was instigating Suzimo earlier on, not many people thought that Suzimo would really dare to enter the evil fiend battlefield. A dragon pondered for a moment and analyzed. Could it be that the title of a Peak Master gave him the illusion that he's really invincible and can even defeat a supreme perfected spirit? Look, he landed in Area 4. From the direction he's heading, he's indeed heading for Xiangming. That's crazy. It's been a long time since I've seen such a naive cultivator, haha. Given his cultivation realm, it's already not bad if he can enter Area 3 alive, let alone take revenge on Xiangming. That's right. Once the evil fiends and sin spirits along the way discover his tracks and realize that he's a lone cultivator, there's no way they will let him off. After that discussion, more than half of the cultivators and living beings in the Blessed Heaven World Square focused their gazes on Suzimo. After entering the evil fiend battlefield through the teleportation formation, they would land at a random location. Of course, since he had already locked onto Xiangming in Area 3, there was no need for him to delay, and he could just speed over. Although the locations of Xiangming and the others would change as well, it would be much easier to search for them once he was there. Suzimo rose into the air and did not hide his tracks. He soared through the air and released a supreme divine power, boundless golden light, that allowed him to travel 1,000 miles in an instant. He really has a death wish. When they saw that, many perfected spirits in the blessed heaven world square shook their heads with mocking expressions. I take back what I just said. A god race being sneered, given the way he's traveling, he won't be able to survive for more than an hour, let alone enter Area 3. The other perfected spirits agreed as well. Everyone knew that in the evil fiend battlefield, the safest way to avoid being targeted by more evil fiends and sin spirits was to advance cautiously on the ground. Su Zimo's way of flying was way too conspicuous and could easily expose himself to the gazes of many evil fiends and sin spirits. Unless one was a supreme perfected spirit, no one would dare to travel in this manner in the evil fiend battlefield. Indeed, before everyone could stop their discussion, some sin spirits had already targeted Su Zimo. In front of him was a living being that was 1,000 feet tall and shrouded in pitch-black fiend chi. Its gigantic body was indomitable like a fiend celestial and looked similar to humans. However, it had sharp horns on its head that were filled with mysterious spiral patterns. Azura race. Roar. The Azura perfected spirit had 4 arms and 2 heads and let out a deafening roar in Su Zimo's direction at the same time. At the same time, the Azura waved its 4 gigantic arms and spread out massive hands that blotted out the skies, enveloping Su Zimo. Su Zimo ignored it completely, and a pair of almost transparent wings suddenly grew behind him. With a flap of his wings, Su Zimo's speed increased exponentially. Coupled with heavenly feet, boundless golden light, and other powerful escape techniques, he passed through the fingers of the Azura. In the blink of an eye, Su Zimo left the Azura behind. Even a group of sin spirits who were initially prepared to kill Su Zimo missed. They had not expected Su Zimo's movement technique to be so fast. The SM spirits chased for a while longer. Not only did they fail to catch up, they even lost track of Su Zimo completely. In the blessed heaven world square, a god race being harumphed coldly. This person's movement technique is not bad, but it's useless. No matter how fast he is, can he compare to the heaven yakshas inside? That's right. Given how conspicuous he is in the air, it won't be long before he's targeted by the heaven yakshas. Just as everyone was discussing, a group of heaven yakshas descended from the skies and let out ear-piercing cries with malevolent expressions as they pounced towards Su Zimo. Su Zimo did not want to delay on the way and could not be bothered with the yaksha race. Another pair of wings grew beneath the ethereal wings. The pair of wings were surrounded by lightning and were as fast as the wind. Zephyr Thunder Wings. Ethereal wings and Zephyr Thunder Wings flapped at the same time. Su Zimo's body shone with lightning, and his speed increased once more. Instantly, he charged out of the encirclement of the heaven yakshas and vanished on the spot. Instantly, many heaven yakshas were stunned. By the time they reacted, Su Zimo had already fled into the horizon. Given their movement techniques and speed, there was no way they could catch up. Well, the living beings in the blessed heaven world square were dumbfounded. Even supreme perfected spirits on the battle merits jade steel might not have such speed and movement techniques. A barbarian said, "No wonder this person dared to enter the evil fiend battlefield alone. So, that's where he got his confidence from." The god race being was still stubborn and said coldly, "So what if he can escape the obstruction of the heaven yakshas? He'd better pray that he doesn't encounter the Rakshasa ghosts inside." In the evil fiend battlefield, the ones with the fastest movement techniques were not the heaven yakshas, but the Rakshasa ghosts. Su Zimo sped continuously and encountered several obstructions along the way. However, he relied on his terrifying speed of his movement techniques to escape easily. Many evil fiends and sin spirits could not even touch the corner of his clothes. The moment he entered Area 3, he was still targeted by a group of Rakshasas. Many living beings in the blessed heaven world square noticed that and perked up, looking forward to a massive hunt. However, the strange thing was that the moment the Rakshasas charged forward, they dispersed for some reason and allowed Su Zimo to leave without stopping him. What's going on? What the hell? The living beings in the blessed heaven world square were dumbfounded. Only Su Zimo, who was in the evil fiend battlefield, could vaguely guess the reason. A few days ago, he had attacked and intimidated the female commander of the Rakshasa race. She must have warned the other Rakshasas not to provoke him. Without the obstruction of the Rakshasas, the other evil fiends and sin spirits were almost completely insignificant to him. Su Zimo's journey in the evil fiend battlefield could be described as smooth. He entered Area 3 as quickly as possible and sped towards Xiangming and the others. Before long, Su Zimo finally arrived at his destination. However, Xiangming and the others were not here. He observed the surroundings carefully and discovered some bloodstains from a battle. Following the clues, he continued searching and finally caught up to Xiangming and the others at the foot of a mountain. Xiangming was a supreme perfected spirit after all, and was alerted right away. He turned around abruptly and saw a scholarly green-robed cultivator flying over not far behind him. The sword cultivator of the sword world dares to enter? When Xiangming saw the sect badge on the green-robed cultivator's waist, he recognized him instantly. A crack appeared on the heavenly eye on his glabella, revealing a stern killing intent. Xiangming scanned with his spirit consciousness and detected the cultivation realm of the person. He could not help but sneer and raise his brows. Perfected immortal of the celestial being realm, what are you doing here? I'm here to kill you, the green-robed cultivator replied. Chapter 2801. Chapter 2801. One strike. Chapter 2801. One strike. Kill me? You? Ha 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 ha. As though he had heard the funniest thing in the world, Xiangming reared his head in laughter with a mocking expression. Even supreme perfected spirits ranked before him on the battle merits jade. Steel would not dare to casually say that they wanted to kill him, let alone this celestial being perfected immortal before him. Besides Xiangming were 9 perfected spirits of the heavenly eye race who were all at the paradise void realm. When they heard that, the heavenly eye perfected spirit sneered as well. A heavenly eye perfected spirit volunteered. Commander Xiang, leave this ant to me. He's not worthy of dying in your hands. Let's go. Xiangming nodded casually and turned around. He stood with his hands behind his back and could not even be bothered to look at Su Zimo. For living beings of the 10,000 races in the Trichiliacosm, they would only be taken seriously once they became supreme perfected spirits. Swoosh! The heavenly eye perfected spirit flashed and stood opposite Su Zimo. The heavenly eye on his glabella was half open as he said with a smile, "How should I kill you? Killing you with a single move seems a little boring. How about I play a little with you?" Su Zimo could not be bothered to talk to him. In a flash, he arrived before the heavenly eye perfected spirit. It was too fast. That speed had already surpassed a certain level of laws and crossed countless layers of space instantly. Su Zimo did not pretend at all. Raising his hand slightly, he condensed his finger sword and stabbed towards the glabella of the heavenly eye perfected spirit. The heavenly eye perfected spirit was shocked and his pupils constricted. Before the sword finger arrived, the heavenly eye on his glabella could not withstand the sharpness of the finger sword and felt a sharp pain as scarlet blood flowed. At that moment, it was already too late for him to teleport. He could only roar and open the heavenly eye on his glabella with all his might, channeling his essence spirit crazily, wanting to defend against Su Zimo with the power of his heavenly eye. However, the moment he opened his heavenly eye, the finger sword descended and tapped on his heavenly eye instantly. Crack! Crack! A cracking sound came from his glabella. At the same time, the back of the heavenly eye perfected spirit's head suddenly split open and a 2-finger-wide hole appeared with fresh blood gushing out. With just a single finger strike, Su Zimo blinded the heavenly eye perfected spirit's heavenly eye. At the same time, the sharpness of his finger sword was way too strong and his remaining strength was not exhausted as it pierced through his head. After the Heavenly Eye race advanced to the Perfected One realm, all their dermic das would condense in the Heavenly Eye at their glabella. For the Heavenly Eye perfected spirits, their heavenly eyes were their Tao fruits, and their Tao fruits were their heavenly eyes. Now that his heavenly eye was shattered, his essence spirit was destroyed by the sharpness of Su Zimo's finger sword, and he died on the spot. Instant kill with a single finger strike. A Paradise Void perfected spirit of the Heavenly Eye race could not even last a single round against Su Zimo and could not retaliate at all. The expressions of the remaining Heavenly Eye perfected spirits changed when they saw that. Xiang Ming, whose back was originally facing Su Zimo, felt an unprecedented sense of danger the moment he heard the terrified and struggling roars of his clansmen. It was as though a calamity was about to descend the next moment. This is bad. Xiang Ming's heart sank. Without hesitation, he channeled his essence spirit and opened his heavenly eye on his glabella, turning around abruptly. Astral imprisonment. Xiang Ming growled. The moment he turned around, the heavenly eye on his glabella released a powerful peerless divine power that enveloped Su Zimo. Time and space were both frozen. Not only was time stopped, space was also frozen. Su Zimo was frozen in midair and could not move at all. The distance between the two of them was only an arm's length. If Xiang Ming was any slower, he might have died. Fortunately, he was not careless and released his peerless divine power right away when he realized that the situation was bad. This was the experience accumulated through the countless baptisms of blood, as well as life and death experiences. Looking at Su Zimo, who was inches away, Xiang Ming broke out in cold sweat and was enraged. Ant. Gritting his teeth, Xiang Ming glared at Su Zimo with anger in his 3 eyes and said coldly with a murderous aura, "You're still too inexperienced to want to kill me. I'm going to slice you into pieces and let you die bit by bit in fear. In the end, I'll burn your bones and scatter your ashes." Crack, crack. Suddenly, strange sounds sounded from Su Zimo. Under Xiang Ming's gaze, 4 pairs of ivory tusks that were as white as jade grew slowly behind Su Zimo, emitting a terrifying aura. Under normal circumstances, astral imprisonment targeted not only the cultivator's body, but also their bloodline, essence spirit, true essence, and even dermic das. But now, an incomparably powerful divine power surged from Su Zimo's body. Unless it was a peerless divine power. Only peerless divine powers could defend against his peerless divine power. When Xiang Ming thought of that, he was shocked. This perfected immortal was only at the celestial being realm but had already comprehended a peerless divine power. Immediately after, the power in Su Zimo's body increased exponentially. His glabella shone and his spirit consciousness surged. Suddenly, a blinding blood-colored sword beam with a chilling killing intent burst forth from his body. The sword beam seemed to be able to kill everything and destroy the world. The sword beam seemed to be condensed with the strongest killing intent in the world and broke through the astral imprisonment that enveloped Su Zimo instantly. Peerless divine power, the immortal vanquishing sword. Pissed. Xiang Ming gasped and his expression changed in shock with disbelief on his face. A second peerless divine power. How is that possible? After releasing 2 peerless divine powers in succession, this person's essence spirit did not collapse. Not only that, the immortal vanquishing sword released by this person could actually break through his astral imprisonment. This meant that this celestial being perfected immortal who was 2 minor realms away from him could definitely fight him head-on in terms of combat strength. A supreme perfected spirit. The green-robe cultivator before him was a supreme perfected spirit expert. Xiang Ming was really shocked. The moment he was slightly distracted, a green light burst forth from Su Zimo's glabella and entered Xiang Ming's body instantly, seeping out from behind him. Xing! Right in front of the horrified gazes of a few living beings of the Heavenly Eye race, Xiang Ming's body was split into 2 from the middle by the green light. Blood spewed and his organs flowed, scattering on the ground. Xiang Ming's essence spirit was destroyed and he died. The green light revealed its true form. It was a sharp and cold jade-green sword, the duckweed sword. The strongest talent of the Heavenly Eye race was the Heavenly Eye on their glabella. Because they possessed this innate eye, they were able to comprehend divine powers, dermic daos, and the mysteries of the world with greater ease. This Heavenly Eye was their source of power. However, the bloodline and physique of the Heavenly Eye race were not considered top-tier among the 10,000 races. Once Su Zimo broke free from astral imprisonment, at that distance, Xiang Ming could not defend against his killing intent at all. Furthermore, Xiang Ming did not even have the chance to dodge when he summoned the duckweed sword. Xiang Ming was originally wearing a layer of defensive armor, but it was instantly broken by the duckweed sword, a treasure that would only be born after the creation Green Lotus advanced to grade 12. There were not many divine weapons in the entire Trichiliocosm that could defend against the sharpness of the duckweed sword, let alone flesh and blood. Chapter 2802, Chapter 2802, Wiped Out. Chapter 2802, Wiped Out. The remaining 8 Heavenly Eye perfected spirits opened their mouths in shock. Xiangming died too quickly and too suddenly. They could not accept it or believe it for a moment. How was that possible? Xiangming was a supreme perfected spirit. A perfected spirit expert with combat strength that could be ranked in the top 100 in the entire Trichiliocosm was sliced into two by a single sword strike. In their eyes, Xiangming had died too easily after being killed by Su Zimo's sword. However, in reality, Su Zimo had to release 2 peerless divine powers in succession and combine them with the duckweed sword to kill Xiangming with a single strike. Although it seemed like a short exchange, only the dead Xiangming knew how terrifying it was. The remaining 8 Heavenly Eye perfected spirits were stunned, but Su Zimo did not stop. The duckweed sword slashed open Xiangming's body. Su Zimo followed the sword and passed through the blood fog. With the duckweed sword in hand, he appeared before 2 other Heavenly Eye perfected spirits instantly. Buzz! The duckweed sword streaked past the 2 of them and trembled, emitting a resplendent green light. The heads of the 2 Heavenly Eye perfected spirits were sliced off neatly and tossed high into the air. Sharp sword chi surged into their consciousnesses and strangled the essence spirits of the 2 Heavenly Eye perfected spirits. The remaining 6 Heavenly Eye perfected spirits finally reacted. 2 of them opened their heavenly eyes angrily and wanted to resist. Petrification Eye, Storm Eye. A strange power descended on Su Zimo and surged into his body. In reality, if that petrification eye continued to grow, there was a chance to comprehend the peerless divine power, astral imprisonment. However, the petrification power alone could not restrict Su Zimo at all. Su Zimo had the body of a grade 12 creation Green Lotus, and the petrification power did not affect him at all. He did not stop. Carrying the duckweed sword, he slashed through the storm that had just condensed in front of him and arrived in front of the 2 Heavenly Eye perfected spirits, piercing the glabella of one of them. Using the remaining momentum, he slashed in reverse and split the other party into 2. When the remaining 4 Heavenly Eye perfected spirits saw that, they did not dare to resist and reached for the blessed Heaven World badge at their waists, prepared to escape from the evil Fiend battlefield. Su Zimo spun the duckweed sword in his hand and slashed in the direction of the 4 of them. Instantly, the duckweed sword seemed to have transformed into countless sword shadows that descended from the skies. The void around the 4 Heavenly Eye perfected spirits distorted and collapsed, forming a gigantic tomb. Countless green sword shadows intertwined and descended, falling into the tomb, creating a lifeless sword tomb that severed life. Before the 4 Heavenly Eye perfected spirits could escape from this place, they fell into the sword tomb and were pierced by countless green sword shadows. Their bodies were filled with sword holes and blood flowed profusely. They died. The sword burial Tao was displayed in front of the world for the first time and buried the 4 Heavenly Eye perfected spirits instantly. The battle began all of a sudden and ended abruptly as well. In the blink of an eye, Xiangming and the others of the Heavenly Eye world were completely wiped out without a single survivor. The blessed heaven world square was suddenly so silent that one could hear a pin drop. The living beings of the 10,000 races from various worlds were shocked when they witnessed what happened in the evil Fiend battlefield with their own eyes. The scene earlier on had exceeded everyone's imagination. Xiang Ming was killed by a single slash from the Peak Master of the 9th Sword Peak, and the other Heavenly Eye-perfected spirits were slaughtered by him as though he was cutting vegetables. The entire process merely took a few breaths, but Xiang Ming's entire group was killed. Even with the blessed Heaven World badges, they could not escape. This was not a huge battle, but more like a one-sided massacre. Looking at the green-robed man clearing the battlefield in the evil Fiend battlefield and that delicate face, a chill suddenly rose in the hearts of many perfected spirits. When did such a ruthless person appear in the sword world? It was no wonder why this person was a peak master. In the residence of the sword world, under the anticipation and worry of many sword cultivators, Lin Xuanjin woke up slowly and gradually regained consciousness. Lin Xuanjin's first reaction when she woke up was to touch the blessed Heaven World badge on her waist. After touching nothing, a hint of disappointment flashed through her eyes. Yulan could tell that Lin Xuanjin was disappointed and consoled her. "Xuanjin, it's all right. As long as you're fine, there's always a chance to obtain battle merits in the future." Lin Xuanjin seemed to have thought of something and suddenly asked, "Where's that female ape? How is she?" "She's dead." Yulan sighed gently and did not hide anything. Lin Xuanjin lowered her head. Although she was expressionless, her heart ached. When she recalled what she said to Su Zimo in the cave back then, she felt even more guilty and regretful. "Xuanjin, how do you feel? Do you feel any discomfort?" When Yulan saw that Lin Xuanjin was silent, she asked again with concern. Lin Xuanjin snapped out of her senses and checked her condition. Although her injuries had not healed, she was mostly fine. Furthermore, there was no trace of her burning her essence spirit, as though it had never happened. How could this be? Lin Xuanjin knew very well the consequences of burning her essence spirit. Furthermore, she was severely injured by Xiang Ming and would definitely not survive. "Master, did you guys save me?" Lin Xuanjin asked. "It was Peak Master Su Zhu," Yulan said. "Brother Su spent a day and a half to pull you back from the brink of death. He was the only one who could save you." Lin Xuanjin vaguely recalled that in her groggy state, someone seemed to have been casting dermic arts on her and injecting life force into her. She did not expect it to be Su Zhu. "Where's Peak Master Su?" Lin Xuanjin struggled to sit up from the bed, prepared to thank Su Zimo in person. "Brother Su? He was just here." Yulan, Lu Yun, and the others looked around for traces of Su Zimo. Just as Bai Ming Shui was about to speak, arrogant laughter sounded from outside. "Ha ha ha ha. Brother Lu, you didn't expect us to meet so quickly, right? Is Lin Xuanjin from your sword world still alive?" The person's words were filled with mockery and gloating. It was King Cold Eye of the Heavenly Eye world. Lu Yun, Yulan, and the others' expressions darkened. They turned around and walked out of the room, looking coldly at King Cold Eye and the others standing outside. When King Cold Eye saw Lu Yun appear, the curve in his eyes intensified as he continued smiling. "Lu Yun, why are you looking at me so angrily? I wasn't the one who killed Lin Xuanjin. She's the one with a weak cultivation and could not fight against Xiang Ming of my Heavenly Eye world. In a fight between those of the same cultivation realm, she can only blame herself for being inferior." Lu Yun sneered. "King Cold Eye, don't worry. I'm not as shameless and ruthless as you to slaughter billions of innocent living beings just because I had a weak son whose heavenly eye was blinded in the evil Fiend battlefield due to his own inferiority." "Humph." At the mention of that, King Cold Eye retracted his smile and said slowly, "Lu Yun, I once told you that the blood of my Heavenly Eye race shall not be spilled in vain. Lin Xuanjin's death is only a lesson for your sword world. Don't meddle in other people's business, let alone my Heavenly Eye world." Right then, a slightly weak voice sounded from the residence. "King Cold Eye, sorry to disappoint you." Lin Xuanjin walked out of the room slowly and said indifferently, "I'm quite lucky and won't die just yet." Chapter 2803, Chapter 2803, Are you stupid? Chapter 2803, Are you stupid? She's not dead. When King Coldeye saw Lin Xuanjin walk out, his expression darkened. He had seen the situation yesterday clearly in the blessed Heaven World Square. How could she have survived until now after suffering such serious injuries? Furthermore, it seemed like Lin Xuanjin was in a good state and was clearly out of danger. King Coldeye's expression changed erratically before returning to normal. He smiled and said, I can't say that I'm disappointed. You were lucky this time round, but you won't be so lucky next time. Furthermore, Xiangming of my heavenly eye world snatched away more than 1,000 battle merits from you guys. You should be the ones disappointed. Lu Yun said indifferently. Losing battle merits is nothing. As long as we're alive, we can always get back the lost battle merits one day. Ha 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 ha. King Coldeye burst into laughter. Lu Yun, you're too naive. As long as I'm around, the people of your sword world will never be able to obtain battle merits. Every time our Heavenly Eye clansmen see someone from your sword world, we'll kill them. If we see them twice, we'll kill them twice. We'll kill until the perfected spirits of your sword world will never be able to rise. We'll make sure that the people of your sword world will never dare to step foot into the evil fiend battlefield. You. Bai Tianqing was enraged when he heard that and glared angrily. If not for the fact that fighting was prohibited in the blessed heaven world, he might have already fought King Coldeye. Lu Yun, Yulan, and the others had grim expressions as well. King Coldeye, don't go too far. Feng Su clenched his fists slightly. Go too far? King Coldeye chuckled. Didn't you guys say it so well when you were meddling in our affairs? Fights in the evil fiend battlefield happen between those of the same cultivation realms. Even if they die, they can only blame themselves for being inferior. So, how am I going too far? Lu Yun took a deep breath. King Coldeye, your heavenly eye race has 2 supreme perfected spirits now. Naturally, you have the right to be arrogant. However, there will be a day when supreme perfected spirits will be born in our sword world as well. At that time, we'll settle everything in the evil fiend battlefield. In fact, that was the case. As of now, Peak Master Su Zhu of the 9th Sword Peak had already comprehended the immortal vanquishing sword. As long as he cultivated to the Paradise Void realm, he would become a supreme perfected spirit. Baiming Shui had transcended the unprecedented 9 of 9 heavenly tribulation and even obtained the inheritance of another peerless divine power of the Sword Dao. There was also Yunting. His talent in the Sword Dao was rare throughout history, and he had long comprehended the immortal vanquishing sword to the level of a quasi-peerless divine power. Both he and Baiming Shui were only at the convergence realm. As long as they did not die prematurely and had sufficient time to cultivate and comprehend in the future, there was a high chance that they would grow into supreme perfected spirits. Of course, the cultivation realms of the 3 of them were relatively low, and it might take tens of thousands, or even hundreds of thousands of years for them to cultivate to the Paradise Void realm. As of now, the person who had the greatest hopes and chances of becoming a supreme perfected spirit was Lin Xuanjin. Oh! King Cold-Eye deliberately provoked. Which day will it be? In my opinion, why don't we do it today? If you have the guts, don't just argue with me here. Let the few perfected spirits of your sword world enter the evil fiend battlefield to let their actions do the talking. Lu Yun harumphed coldly and remained silent. Not to mention that Lin Xuanjin, Wang Dong, and the others were injured. Even if the 8 of them recovered, it was impossible for them to enter the evil fiend battlefield and take the risk. Furthermore, King Cold-Eye was clearly deliberately provoking everyone from the sword world. Lu Yun and the others naturally would not fall for it. King Cold-Eye did not hide his voice the entire time. The commotion here had already attracted the perfected spirits of many worlds to watch. Everyone gathered and discussed. What's going on? Why is the Heavenly Eye world on bad terms with the sword world? I heard that Heavenly Eye world destroyed the 7-star sword world and killed billions of living beings. Later on, a group of people from the sword world bumped into them and saved thousands of cultivators from the 7-star sword world. thousands of people from the Heavenly Eye race even died, and the two worlds became enemies because of that. In the Evil Fiend battlefield yesterday, Xiang Ming led 9 Heavenly Eye perfected spirits and defeated Lin Xuanjin and the others of the Sword World. Lin Xuanjin almost died. Ha 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 ha. Seeing that more and more people were gathering around, a king expert of the Heavenly Eye race burst into laughter. Everyone, take a look. The perfected spirits of the Sword World are all useless and cowardly. They're so frightened by our Heavenly Eye race that they don't even dare to enter the Evil Fiend battlefield. Another king of the Heavenly Eye race said, "In my opinion, you sword cultivators should scram back to the Sword World and hide obediently. Don't come to the blessed Heaven World lest you embarrass yourselves." The discussions in the crowd intensified and laughter sounded from time to time. Everyone from the Sword World felt their faces burning with anger when they heard that. However, everyone knew in their hearts that entering the Evil Fiend battlefield now was no different from committing suicide. Everyone could only endure this humiliation. Lin Xuanjin, Wang Dong, Gong Suanyu, and the other number 1 experts of the various sword peaks lowered their heads one after another and clenched their fists in silence. Who said that no one in the Sword World dares to enter the Evil Fiend battlefield? Right then, a woman's voice sounded from the crowd in the residence. Everyone looked in the direction of the voice and saw a young woman walking out of the crowd. "Bai Ming Shui, stop fooling around," Lu Yun scolded with a frown. Afraid that no one from the Sword World would accept the challenge, King Cold Eye's gaze landed on Bai Ming Shui, and he asked with interest, "Little girl, you dare to enter the Evil Fiend battlefield?" "I'm not talking about me." Bai Ming Shui shook her head. "I'm referring to my master." King Cold Eye raised his eyebrows and asked, "And who's your master? Come on and stand out for me to take a look." Bai Ming Shui said, "He's not here. He should have entered the Evil Fiend battlefield by now." "What?" Before King Cold Eye could react, Lu Yun, Yulan, and the others were shocked. Lu Yun and the others thought that Bai Ming Shui was joking and hurriedly released their spirit consciousnesses to search the surroundings. No one realized the severity of the matter until they discovered no traces of Su Zimo. Did Brother Su really head to the Evil Fiend battlefield? Lu Yun looked at Bai Ming Shui with a serious expression and asked in a deep voice, "When did he leave?" Bai Ming Shui thought for a moment. "He left right after saving senior sister Lin." "Oh no." Lu Yun was anxious and angry as he shouted at Bai Ming Shui, "Are you stupid? Why didn't you stop him?" Now that Su Zimo was implicated, Lu Yun lost his composure as a peak master, and his tone was much heavier. "How can I stop Master from going to the Evil Fiend battlefield?" Bai Ming Shui was puzzled as well and asked instead. Furthermore, in her heart, there was no need to stop her master. Lu Yun said, "Even if you couldn't stop him, you could have told us earlier and it wouldn't have been too late. But now?" Yulan had a guilty expression and was filled with regret. "It's our fault for not paying attention after we saw that Xuanzhan had recovered." Feng Su sighed. "It's mainly because no one expected Brother Su to be so rash as to run to the Evil Fiend battlefield himself." From outside the door, King Cold Eye was naturally happy to see the worried expressions of Lu Yun and the others. To think that things would take a turn for the better. Someone had actually gone into the Evil Fiend battlefield to die. A Heavenly Eye race being whispered into King Cold Eye's ear. His eyes lit up as he suppressed the excitement in his heart and said in a strange tone, "Oh, my. I just heard that this sword cultivator Su of yours is also the peak master of the 9th sword peak? How impressive. He must definitely be extraordinary to be able to become a peak master." Chapter 2804. Chapter 2804. Risk? Chapter 2804. Risk? Everyone in the sword world could hear the mockery in King Cold Eye's words. Only Bai Ming Shui nodded and said seriously, "You're right. Master is indeed extraordinary." Those words naturally attracted even greater ridicule from the Heavenly Eye race. A series of laughter sounded from the surrounding crowd as well. "I heard that the peak master of the 9th sword peak is only a perfected immortal at the celestial being realm, A celestial being perfected immortal dares to enter the evil fiend battlefield alone? He truly doesn't know his limits. Lu Yun and the others had ugly expressions. Su Zimo's identity was special. To the sword world, he was not only a perfected immortal. Even his title as the Peak Master of the Ninth Sword Peak was merely his public identity. The sword world valued Su Zimo even more than Lin Xuanjin. If the few old fellows of the sword world knew that something had happened to Su Zimo, Lu Yun and the others would definitely be unable to absolve themselves of the blame. Lu Yun's heart was filled with regret. He glanced at Baiming Shui and sighed. If I had known earlier, I wouldn't have brought you and Brother Su here. Bai Tianqing grumbled. Brother Su is only at the celestial being realm. Why did he go to the evil fiend battlefield alone? Baiming Shui said, of course he did it to take revenge on those people from the Heavenly Eye race. Brother Su is too rash. Bai Tianqing was a little flustered as well. Baiming Shui looked at Lu Yun, Bai Tianqing and the others with a strange expression. Now that Master has entered the evil fiend battlefield, the Heavenly Eye race should be the ones worrying. What are you guys being flustered for? Lu Yun, Yulan, and the others were so angry that they wanted to laugh. This disciple of his is really way too naive. Lu Yun sighed inwardly and shook his head. He was no longer in the mood to blame Baiming Shui. Yulan said, Brother Su can't be blamed for this. It was only because Xuanjin and the others were injured and nearly died that Brother Su decided to fight alone. At the mention of that, Wang Dong, Gong Suanyu, and the others felt ashamed. Lin Xuanjin lowered her head in silence with a worried expression as well. Even if he wants to go to the evil fiend battlefield, he should have discussed it with us. Lu Yun said, furthermore, he expended a lot of energy healing Xuanjin before entering the evil fiend battlefield without resting. Isn't that way too rash? Yulan said, Brother Su has the Blessed Heaven World badge on him. If he's alert enough, he should be able to escape unscathed when he sees that the situation is bad. Although that was the case, he was up against a supreme perfected spirit after all. Furthermore, the latter had comprehended astral imprisonment. Even Lin Xuanjin almost died. If Xiang Ming wanted to hold back Su Zimo, it would be a dream to think that he could escape alive, let alone unscathed. Right then, Wang Dong seemed to have thought of something and his face turned pale. He said with a trembling voice, there isn't any battle merits on Peak Master Su's Blessed Heaven World badge. What? Lu Yun, Yulan and the others' hearts sank to rock bottom when they heard that. Su Zimo originally had 20 battle merits on his Blessed Heaven World badge. Before he left, he transferred 10 of them to Lin Xuanjin. After that, he left the evil fiend battlefield and spent 10 battle merits. In other words, Su Zimo's Blessed Heaven World badge had no battle merits at all. If he wanted to use the Blessed Heaven World badge to leave the evil fiend battlefield, he had to obtain 10 battle merits. It was over. Even that last sliver of hope that he could escape was now gone. Go. Lu Yun could not stay any longer and said in a low voice, quick, let's go to the Blessed Heaven World Square together and see if we can get him out. Everyone from the sword world moved hurriedly and sped towards the Blessed Pavilion. King Cold-Eye chuckled and said leisurely, Brother Lu, don't be anxious. Wait for me. Let's go take a look together. Who knows, we might be able to witness the battle of a century. Everyone from the Heavenly Eye race chased after them. The living beings of the 10,000 races who were initially watching here would naturally not miss a chance to watch a show at the side of the Blessed Pavilion. As such, they followed behind in a flurry. Before long, everyone from the sword world arrived at the entrance of the Blessed Pavilion. Lu Yun had already prepared himself for the worst outcome. Taking a deep breath, he entered the Blessed Pavilion first and turned right, heading straight for the Blessed Heaven World Square. Before long, everyone from the Sword World and Heavenly Eye World arrived in the Blessed Heaven World Square one after another. At that moment, the Blessed Heaven World Square was a little quiet and the atmosphere was strange. However, everyone from the Sword World was worried and did not notice anything unusual. When the perfected spirits in the square saw the Sword World and Heavenly Eye World charging in, they revealed strange expressions. Some were wary, some shocked and some sympathetic. Look, the people of the Sword World are here. The Heavenly Eye World is here as well. This is going to be interesting, everyone whispered. Lu Yun still had a sliver of hope as he searched around the blessed Heaven World Square. Only after he did not find any traces of Su Zimo did he raise his voice and asked, "Fellow Taoists, may I ask which area of the evil fiend battlefield is the peak master of the 9th sword peak of the Sword World in?" "I'm here." Right then, the third gigantic screen split open and a figure walked out. He had black hair, green robes, and refined features. It was Su Zimo. Everyone from the Sword World was overjoyed when they saw that Su Zimo was fine. A huge rock in their hearts was finally lifted. The moment Su Zimo descended, everyone from the Sword World swarmed forward. "Brother Su, you're way too rash. Why didn't you tell us that you were entering the evil fiend battlefield?" "That's right. We were really scared to death just now. If anything happens to you, how are we going to explain ourselves when we return to the Sword World? We can understand that you want to take revenge for Xuanjin and the others and regain face for the Sword World. However, there's no need for you to take the risk yourself and face the Heavenly Eye World alone." "That's right. It's fine if our Sword World suffers a little this time round. As long as you guys are fine, there's still a long way to go." The 4 peak masters complained the moment they arrived with a blaming tone. Although Su Zimo was fine, the few of them felt a lingering fear. Upon hearing the words of the peak masters of the Sword World, the living beings in the blessed Heaven World Square were dumbfounded and confused. What nonsense were the peak masters of the Sword World spouting? Risking himself? Which part of him was at risk? That person entered the evil fiend battlefield and flew fearlessly in midair, leaving groups of evil fiends and sin spirits behind. In a few breaths, he killed Xiangming and the others. How did he look like he was taking a risk? Furthermore, how did the Sword World suffer a loss? Didn't they just have a few injured perfected immortals? The Heavenly Eye race was the one who truly suffered a major loss. Not only were their supreme perfected spirit dead, they were completely wiped out. The 4 peak masters spoke one after another, and Su Zimo did not have the chance to explain. However, the expressions of everyone from the Heavenly Eye race at the side darkened gradually, feeling disappointed. The scene before them was completely different from what they had imagined. King Cold Eye harumphed coldly. "I thought that the peak master of the 9th sword peak of the Sword World would be an impressive figure. So, he merely took a spin in the evil fiend battlefield before heading out." King Cold Eye was not wrong. Indeed, Su Zimo had not stayed in the evil fiend battlefield for long. After he killed Xiangming and the others, he cleaned up the battlefield and headed to the cave they were in previously for a quick look before heading out. King Cold Eye glared at Su Zimo, wanting to provoke him once more. He sneered, "If you have the guts, why didn't you dare to meet my clansmen of the Heavenly Eye race for a huge battle? Fufu. I guess that's all there is to a peak master of the Sword World." In the opinion of King Cold Eye and the others, there was only one possibility for Su Zimo to survive the evil fiend battlefield. He did not encounter Xiangming at all. Otherwise, Xiangming would not have let him leave alive. Chapter 2805. Chapter 2805. Meant to kill. Chapter 2805. Meant to kill. Swish, swish, swish. After King Cold Eye said that, countless gazes landed on his face in the blessed Heaven World Square. Dragon World, Parasol Tree World, Tomb World, Light World, Barbarian World, Golden Crow World, Giant World. The perfected spirits of the various worlds looked at King Cold Eye as though they were looking at an idiot. "You're referring to Xiangming and the others, right?" Su Zimo said indifferently. "We met, but I guess we didn't really have a huge battle." Su Zimo said it casually, but Lu Yun and the others were alarmed. He had actually met Xiangming and the others. It was truly fortunate that he could escape unscathed under such circumstances. "Oh." King Cold Eye did not believe it at all and sneered. "You came back alive after encountering Xiangming? You're really spouting nonsense. Do you think I'll believe such a low-level lie?" Splash. Su Zimo did not explain. He merely took out 10 blessed heaven world badges that were still stained with blood from his storage bag and threw them casually in front of King Coldeye and the others. Well, many heavenly eye race beings were shocked and their eyes widened in disbelief. King Coldeye reached out and grabbed one of the blessed heaven world badges. The name written on the front was Xiangming. As for the battle merits on the back, they were already empty. That was indeed Xiangming's blessed heaven world badge, and there was no mistake about it. How was that possible? King Coldeye raised his head abruptly and glared fixedly at Su Zimo, asking coldly, "Tell me, why are the blessed heaven world badges of Xiangming and the others with you?" Unless Xiangming and the others encountered a major calamity, it was impossible for the blessed heaven world badges that were hung at all times to fall into the hands of others. However, King Coldeye did not believe it. Xiangming was a supreme perfected spirit. Who could kill him? Furthermore, he had the blessed heaven world badge. Even if he encountered experts like the 10 great evil fiends in the evil fiend battlefield, he could use the blessed heaven world badge to escape. How could they be completely wiped out? Lu Yun and the others looked at Su Zimo beside them with bewildered expressions and puzzled hearts, not knowing what was going on. "I don't only have their badges, but these things as well." As Su Zimo said that, he took out 10 round and bloodshot pearls from his storage bag and had them float above his palm. Some of the 10 pearls were perfectly preserved and some were filled with cracks, emitting different dermic Dao auras. Everyone present could clearly see that the 10 blood pearls were the most important item of the heavenly eye race, the heavenly eye. As for one of the heavenly eyes that was completely preserved, the dermic Dao aura it emitted was related to time and space. If he was not wrong, it was Xiangming's heavenly eye. Pissed. Everyone from the sword world gasped and looked at Su Zimo as though they had seen a ghost. Only Baiming Shui had a calm expression, as though she was not surprised. The moment King Coldeye and the other heavenly eye race beings saw the 10 heavenly eyes, they shuddered as though they were struck by lightning. If it was just the 10 blessed heaven world badges, there could still be a chance of survival for Xiangming and the others. However, those 10 heavenly eyes were enough to prove that Xiangming and the others were already dead. Su Zimo retracted his palm and put the 10 heavenly eyes back into his storage bag. He looked at King Coldeye and the others and said indifferently, "I've returned those 10 blessed heaven world badges. These 10 heavenly eyes are still useful, so I'll accept them." Those words were completely meant to kill. Lu Yun and the others were secretly delighted and suddenly felt proud. King Coldeye had mocked and provoked them for a long time, but his words were not as lethal as Su Zimo's single reply. "You." King Coldeye was so angry that he almost spat out blood. His eyes were bloodshot, and the heavenly eye erected on his glabella could not control itself, wanting to open and kill. However, before long, he felt a strong sense of danger. It was a warning from the rules of the blessed heaven world. If he attacked here, he would be killed by the rules of the blessed heaven world very quickly. King Coldeye took in deep breaths continuously and tried his best to calm the anger and killing intent in his heart. He merely glared at Su Zimo, wishing he could tear the latter into pieces. When the living beings who had followed them from outside saw that, they were stunned on the spot with shocked expressions. Xiangming, the supreme perfected spirit on the battle merits Jade Steel and a top expert who had comprehended astral imprisonment, died in the evil fiend battlefield just like that. King Coldeye turned his head slowly, and his gaze landed on the battle merits Jade Steel not far away. Indeed, Xiangming's name had already disappeared from the battle merits Jade Steel. On the 36th row, Su Zhu's name was written. After killing Xiangming and the others, not only did Su Zimo take back the 1,000 battle merits of Lin Xuanzhen's blessed heaven world badge, the battle merits of Xiangming and the others were also taken by Su Zimo. In just one battle, he ascended to the battle merits Jade Steel. Under normal circumstances, it would take a relatively long time to accumulate battle merits by killing the evil fiends and send spirits continuously in the evil fiend battlefield. In fact, Some Supreme Perfected Spirits only managed to advance to the Battle Merit's Jade Steel by entering the Evil Fiend battlefield dozens of times to accumulate battle merits over multiple occasions. One could kill Supreme Perfected Spirits on the Battle Merit's Jade Steel and take their battle merits for themselves to increase their rankings. Of course, this method of obtaining battle merits was faster, but it was unrealistic. After all, almost all those who could leave their names on the Battle Merit's Jade Steel were Supreme Perfected Spirits. Even if they could win against a Supreme Perfected Spirit, it was difficult for them to kill one another. Furthermore, they had the Blessed Heaven World badges with them. If they saw that the situation was bad, they could withdraw at any time. To think that many living beings in the Blessed Heaven World Square today would be lucky enough to witness a new expert step on the corpses of Supreme Perfected Spirits and charge his way into the Battle Merit's Jade Steel. King Cold, I was still unwilling to believe it. How was that possible? Xiangming was a Supreme Perfected Spirit. How could the 10 of them die in the hands of a perfected immortal at the Celestial Being Realm? That was absolutely impossible. Something must have happened in between. Could the 10 great evil fiends have appeared to surround Xiangming and the others? With that, Su Zhu took advantage of the situation. That speculation was full of flaws. However, it was easier for him to accept it than Xiangming and the others being killed by a celestial being perfected immortal. Even the people of the Sword World could not believe it, let alone King Cold Eye and the other Heavenly Eye race beings. Although Lu Yun, Yulan and the other Peak Masters knew that Su Zimo had the Green Lotus body, they did not know that Su Zimo's combat strength could reach such a level. Could it be that he was only able to kill Xiangming and the others after releasing the Creation Green Lotus bloodline? Was the bloodline of the Creation Green Lotus so strong that it could allow him to cross 2 minor cultivation realms and kill a Supreme Perfected Spirit? However, from the looks of the other living beings, it seemed like he had not exposed the secret of the Green Lotus bloodline. So, what happened just now? If even the 4 Peak Masters were like that and were letting their imaginations run wild, Lin Xuanjin, Wang Dong, Gong Suanyu, Xin Yu, and the other number 1 perfected immortals of the various sword peaks felt even more conflicted. Could Peak Master Su Zhu really be so powerful? The 8 of them could not help but recall everything that happened in the Evil Fiend battlefield. Peak Master Su Zhu's senses were extremely sharp and was even above Lin Xuanjin's. He could sense the tracks of the Rakshasa ghosts a long time in advance. In fact, Peak Master Su Zhu accumulated 10 battle merits without them even noticing. He had even stopped Shun use full-strength attack. It seemed as though Peak Master Su Zhu had revealed some clues to his strength in the Evil Fiend battlefield. However, the 8 of them had preconceived notions and had never truly paid attention to him. Chapter 2806. Chapter 2806. Exchanging Life for Life. Chapter 2806. Exchanging Life for Life. At that thought, Lin Xuanjin and the others felt even more ashamed. Back then, they were the ones who saw Su Zhu as a burden and sent him away. To think that they would almost suffer the consequences of their actions and make a huge mistake. It's getting late. I'll go to the treasure pagoda to exchange for treasures. As Su Zimo said that, he walked out. After killing 10 people from Xiangming's group and including the 1,000 battle merits that Lin Xuanjin had previously obtained, there were now 5,300 battle merits on Su Zimo's Blessed Heaven World badge. It was more than enough to exchange for that Venus Black Gold stone. Su Zimo walked towards the treasure pagoda with only Baiming Shui following behind. Everyone from the Sword World was still immersed in the scene earlier on with a myriad of thoughts in their minds and could not recover for a moment. King Cold Eye and the other Heavenly Eye race beings glared at Su Zimo fiercely, wishing they could skin him alive. However, this was the Blessed Heaven World after all. Even the Heavenly Eye race did not dare to challenge the rules of the Blessed Heaven World. That was unless they used their lives to exchange for his. Furthermore, only Grotto Heaven experts could use their lives in exchange for Su Zimo's. In the Blessed Heaven World, one would only have a split second to attack a perfected spirit before they would be killed by the rules of the Blessed Heaven World. Only Grotto Heaven Realm experts had that ability. Of course, King Cold Eye knew that this idea was too bold and was equivalent to breaking the tacit understanding between the super-large worlds. It was despicable behavior for an immortal king expert to disregard their status to kill a paragon of another world. That could easily attract crazier revenge from the other party. However, King Cold Eye could not take this lying down. He wanted Su Zhu to die in the blessed heaven world today. King Cold Eye looked at Su Zimo's departing figure and suddenly sent a voice transmission to an old man behind him. Frostwood, you don't have much lifespan left, right? Although this old man was also at the Grotto Heaven realm, he was King Cold Eye's servant and had followed him for many years. The old man seemed to have realized something and his eyes darkened. Master, I still have more than 100,000 years remaining. To Grotto Heaven realm kings who had a lifespan of 1,000,000 years, although their lifespan of more than 100,000 years was not long, they had only just entered their twilight years. King Cold Eye said, what Su Zhu of the Sword World did today was not only to kill Xiang Ming and the others. More importantly, he embarrassed my Heavenly Eye world. The old man guessed King Cold Eye's intentions, but remained silent. After all, he was a king of the Grotto Heaven realm. Once he attacked in the blessed heaven world, it meant that he would definitely die. Unless there was no other choice, who would be willing to die here? King Cold Eye continued, with this lad's talent, he will definitely become an immortal king in the future. If you kill him, it's equivalent to killing a hope for the future of the sword world. It's not a loss for you to exchange your life for his. The old man was silent and felt a chill run down his spine. King Cold Eye could say it so casually because he was not using his own life in exchange. The old man had served him with all his might for hundreds of thousands of years, but in the end, this was the outcome. King Cold Eye continued, killing this lad is equivalent to making a great contribution to my Heavenly Eye world. I can guarantee that your clansmen will also receive preferential treatment by my side in the future. The old man was not from the Heavenly Eye race. When he heard King Cold Eye's promise, he finally relented. I understand. The old man had no choice and no way out. Even if he refused to attack, King Cold Eye would still kill him for disobeying orders after leaving the blessed heaven world. In the eyes of the Heavenly Eye race, the Heavenly Eye race was the absolute royal family and the other races were slaves. King Cold Eye said, remember, don't have any wishful thinking or hold back. Release your essence spirit secret skill and kill him right away. In the blessed heaven world, no matter the king of any race, their Grotto Heavens would be restricted and could not be released. Apart from releasing a Grotto Heaven, the safest way to kill a perfected spirit was to rely on an essence spirit secret skill to crush the other party completely with their major cultivation realm advantage. I got it, the old man replied and hid in the crowd, leaving the blessed heaven world square and chasing after Su Zimo. After Su Zimo left the blessed heaven world square, he headed towards the treasure pagoda. In the evil fiend battlefield, he killed Xiang Ming and the others and cleaned up the battlefield briefly before returning to the cave where the female ape had stayed. With the death of the female ape, if there was no one to take care of the young monkey, it would definitely not live for long. However, after he returned to the cave, he did not see any traces of the young monkey or blood. Perhaps the female ape had already settled the young monkey, or perhaps it was taken away by other sanguine apes. As Su Zimo thought about that, he walked and gradually arrived near the treasure pagoda. Suddenly, Su Zimo's heart skipped a beat and his spirit perception that had been calm for a long time warned him wildly. A strong sense of danger suddenly descended. Su Zimo, who had walked on the edge of life and death countless times, did not turn back or think. He merely relied on an almost instinctive reaction to teleport with Baiming Shui right away. After reappearing, Su Zimo did not stop at all and executed the 9 palace subtle steps. As though he had crossed countless layers of space, he arrived at the entrance of the treasure pagoda instantly and entered in a flash. After entering the treasure pagoda, the sense of danger vanished instantly. It was only then that Su Zimo turned around. In the distance, the spirit consciousness light between the brows of an old man had yet to dissipate. He was looking in the direction Su Zimo left with widened eyes and a stunned expression, as though he could not believe it. The air was filled with a terrifying essence spirit power. That was an essence spirit attack at the level of an immortal king. The essence spirit attack chased in the direction Su Zimo left in. However, it was blocked by the restrictions of the treasure pagoda and vanished. If Su Zimo had been a step slower, he would have been killed by the old man's essence spirit secret skill. Although Su Zimo was now at the celestial being realm, his essence spirit was actually at the paradise void realm. However, even if he released the 8-tusk divine strength and the power of his essence spirit increased exponentially, he would not be able to break through to the grotto heaven realm and could not defend against the killing power of the essence spirit secret skill of the grotto heaven realm. In reality, the killing power of the essence spirit secret skill arrived instantly and was almost impossible to dodge. The reason why Su Zimo could escape this calamity was entirely because his spirit perception had warned him in advance. In other words, Su Zimo had already teleported away before the old man could release his essence spirit secret skill. It was already too late for the old man to stop. Although the essence spirit secret skill was still chasing after Su Zimo, it was a step too late and was blocked by the restriction of the treasure pagoda. Under normal circumstances, it was impossible for an immortal king expert to fail in killing a perfected immortal. As long as he released his massive spirit consciousness and locked onto Su Zimo or used other methods to hold him back, the latter would not be able to escape and would not be able to dodge his essence spirit secret skill. However, this was the blessed heaven world after all. Once he released his spirit consciousness and locked onto Su Zimo, the blessed heaven world would not give him a second chance to attack. Take now for example. After he released his essence spirit secret skill, although he did not manage to kill Su Zimo, he would still be killed mercilessly by the blessed heaven world. That single instant was the difference between life and death. Suddenly, a beam of light descended at a shocking speed. In a flash, it entered the top of the old man's head. The life force in the old man's body decreased, and his essence spirit was destroyed, dying on the spot. The next moment, an invisible force lifted the old man's corpse slowly into the air and disappeared. Chapter 2807. Chapter 2807. Complete Failure. Chapter 2807. Complete Failure. In the blessed heaven world square. Unable to hold back his curiosity, Shinyu looked at a few perfected spirits not far away and asked with cupped fists, "Everyone, sorry to disturb you. Fellow Taoists, can you tell us the details of the huge battle between Peak Master Su and Xiang Ming and the others in the evil fiend battlefield earlier on?" The perfected spirits looked at Shinyu and the others with strange expressions. Shinyu coughed gently. "We arrived a little late and didn't see the huge battle earlier on. So, Wang Dong, Gong Suanyu, and the others from the Sword World revealed curious and expectant expressions as they looked at the perfected spirits. Even King Cold Eye and the other heavenly eye race beings pricked up their ears. They could not imagine how a celestial being perfected immortal could kill a supreme perfected spirit like Xiang Ming. A perfected spirit on the other side waved it off. "Huge battle? There's nothing like that. It was a one-sided massacre." Another perfected spirit lamented as well. "Your Peak Master Su is a ruthless person. He charged into the crowd with a sword and killed Xiang Ming and the others as though he was chopping vegetables." Huh? Everyone from the Sword World was dumbfounded. This was completely different from what they had imagined. In their opinion, if Peak Master Su entered the evil fiend battlefield alone and encountered Xiang Ming's group of 10, there would definitely be an earth-shaking battle of the century. Why did it sound like child's play from the mouths of these perfected spirits? Even the supreme perfected spirit was chopped up like vegetables under the sword of Peak Master Su. Bullshit. King Cold Eye, who was at the side, could not continue listening and shouted angrily. Xiang Ming was a supreme perfected spirit, but Su Zhu was merely at the celestial being realm. How could he have killed Xiang Ming without any help? That's the truth. The perfected spirit spread his hands and shrugged slightly. The perfected spirits in the square witnessed it with their own eyes. Xiangming was killed by that peak master of the sword world with a single slash. A perfected spirit of the dragon race nodded as well. Xiangming and the others died in a few breaths. Indeed, there was no huge battle. In just a few breaths, they were all dead. When he heard that, King Cold Eye's heart skipped a beat and he almost could not breathe. Lu Yun, Yulan, and the other peak masters exchanged glances and could see the shock in each other's eyes. In that case, Su Zimo killed Xiangming without even revealing the creation. Green Lotus bloodline. Su Zimo's strength was even more terrifying than they had imagined. The four peak masters could not help but feel admiration for the old fellows of the sword world. Those old fellows had good judgment indeed. In order to make Su Zimo stay, they opened up a sword peak for him and made him a peak master. He was already this powerful at the celestial being realm. If he was allowed to continue growing, it would be unimaginable. Fu. Right then, King Cold Eye suddenly laughed and became a little crazy. Lu Yun glared at him and mocked. Why? The early death of a supreme perfected spirit from your heavenly eye race is something that's so joyous for you. King Cold Eye shook his head and said meaningfully, I have to admit that your peak master of the 9th sword peak is indeed an unparalleled paragon. However, as long as one is a paragon, they will definitely be envied by the heavens. There's no guarantee that no calamity will descend. Lu Yun narrowed his eyes slightly. He could vaguely tell that King Cold Eye seemed to be implying something. There seems to be someone missing behind King Cold Eye. Right then, Yulan suddenly said, This is bad. Lu Yun thought of a possibility and was shocked. At the same time, the expressions of the other three peak masters changed drastically when they realized that. Without even time to explain, Lu Yun was about to rush out of the blessed Heaven World Square. Right then, a perfected spirit ran in with lingering fear and shouted, Something happened outside. Lu Yun stopped in his tracks, his heart sinking and his face turning pale. The other three peak masters had ugly expressions as well. When King Cold Eye heard that voice, the corners of his lips curled up slightly with a smug smile. He looked at Lu Yun and the others and said faintly, What a pity that you guys are a step too late. What happened? Someone asked loudly. The perfected spirit glanced in the direction of the heavenly eye race and gulped. Just now, a king of the heavenly eye race suddenly attacked the peak master of the 9th sword peak of the sword world. In the end, he missed. Upon hearing those words, King Cold Eye's smile froze on his face. For a moment, he even thought that he had heard wrongly. Lu Yun was still in disbelief and probed, Fellow Taoist, did you just say that? The king of the heavenly eye world missed? That's right. The perfected spirit nodded. He has already been killed by the rules of the blessed heaven world, and his corpse has vanished. King Cold Eye clutched his chest and swayed with a livid expression. As for the four peak masters of the sword world, their worries turned into joy and their hearts finally relaxed. Heavenly Eye world is truly way too vicious. Their feud with the sword world will only deepen to the point that it's irreconcilable. That Grotto Heaven Realm expert must have been prepared to die to attack in the blessed heaven world. Even so, the peak master of the sword world was not killed. He's truly lucky. To think that the heavenly eye race would do such a despicable thing. How shameless. The heavenly eye world has really suffered a huge loss this time round. Not only did a supreme perfected spirit die, but they even lost a Grotto Heaven king. In the end, they didn't even touch a single hair of the other party. Hearing the discussions around him, King Cold Eye felt his vision turn black and his head spin. The heavenly eye world had suffered a huge loss this time round and lost all its face. It could be said to have suffered a crushing defeat. Lu Yun and the others snapped out of their reverie as well. Lu Yun no longer stood on ceremony with the other party and cursed, King Cold Eye, you're truly despicable to the extreme. You actually sent a king of the heavenly eye race to kill a perfected immortal of our sword world. King Cold Eye took a few deep breaths before gradually calming down. Yulan said coldly, King Cold Eye, your heavenly eye race broke the rules first. Don't blame our sword world for doing the same. Exactly. Feng Su surveyed his surroundings and shouted, "The perfected spirits of the various worlds saw this and can bear witness." King Cold, I said slowly, although I saw him leave, I didn't know what he wanted to do at all. Furthermore, that old thing isn't from my Heavenly Eye race. His actions have nothing to do with my Heavenly Eye race. King Cold Eye knew that he was in the wrong and simply denied everything. This matter would have been fine if Suju was killed. But now, the Heavenly Eye world suffered heavy losses. If he admitted to it and gave the Sword World a reason to take revenge, King Cold Eye would not be able to explain himself when he returned to the Heavenly Eye world. Yulan sneered, "Heh, your Heavenly Eye race is truly shameless." Lu Yun sneered as well. "Cold Eye, it's not so easy for you to wash this off yourself cleanly. Although that king expert wasn't from your Heavenly Eye race, he's from your Heavenly Eye world." "That's right," King Cold Eye said. "Your Sword World can take revenge on any other races in my Heavenly Eye world. My Heavenly Eye race will not care, but don't blame this on the Heavenly Eye race." Actually, before King Cold Eye asked the old man to attack, he had already thought of this escape route. However, he had not expected a Grotto Heaven Realm king to fail. Chapter 2808. Chapter 2808. Blood for Blood. Chapter 2808. Blood for Blood. King Cold Eye shamelessly denied it and naturally attracted the whispers of the surrounding perfected spirits. The perfected spirits of the various worlds were wary of the ferocity of the Heavenly Eye race and knew that the latter would seek revenge for the smallest grievance. As such, they did not dare to mock them brazenly. However, there were inevitably some discussions and pointing fingers. King Cold Eye's expression was dark, and he no longer had the face to stay. Without saying a word, he turned around and left with the Heavenly Eye race. Afraid that King Cold Eye would do something crazy again, Lu Yun, Yulan, and the other Sword World cultivators left hurriedly and headed towards the Treasure Pagoda. King Cold Eye left the Blessed Heaven World Square without stopping. He left Blessed Island with many Heavenly Eye race beings and headed out of the Blessed Heaven World. King Cold Eye, a Heavenly Eye race being, had an indignant expression as he clenched his fists. "Are we leaving just like that? I can't take this lying down." "That's right. When has our Heavenly Eye race ever suffered such humiliation? In my opinion, we should send a message back right now and ask the number 1 perfected spirit of our race, Xia Yin, to rush over and kill the Peak Master of the 9th Sword Peak." King Cold Eye remained silent with a cold expression. After leaving the Blessed Heaven World, King Cold Eye said slowly, "The 10-day deadline for the group of people from the Sword World to stay in the Blessed Heaven World is approaching. They will leave this place soon. Even if we get Xia Yin to come over now, it'll be too late. We'll have made a wasted trip." Another Heavenly Eye race being said hatefully, "King Cold Eye, are we just going to let it go like that?" "Of course not." King Cold Eye's gaze was sinister as he said in a deep voice, "Remember, the blood of our Heavenly Eye race will definitely not flow in vain. One day, our Heavenly Eye race will make those people from the Sword World pay the price and make Suju pay with his blood." With that said, King Cold Eye casually tore through the void and led everyone from the Heavenly Eye race into the spatial tunnel, disappearing from the Blessed Heaven World. On the first floor of the Treasure Pagoda. When everyone from the Sword World found Suzimo, he had just exchanged for the Venus Black Gold Stone with the battle merits in the Blessed Heaven World badge. "Brother Su, an immortal king expert of the Heavenly Eye world attacked you just now. Are you all right?" Lu Yun asked. "They'll be fine." Suzimo smiled and did not say anything more. Up till this point of his cultivation, he had encountered countless life and death crises. The previous one was only one of them and was nothing to him. However, the more he did not say anything, the more unfathomable he looked in the eyes of everyone in the Sword World. It was fine for Lu Yun, Yulan, and the other Peak Masters. After all, they knew a little about Suzimo. As for Wang Dong, Gong Suanyu, and the others, the way they looked at Suzimo had long changed. In a few breaths, he killed the Supreme Perfected Spirit and the others as though he was chopping vegetables. Even against the full-strength attack of an immortal king expert, he escaped unscathed. In the eyes of everyone, such a battle record was an unimaginable miracle. In the beginning, although they were rather respectful and polite to Suzumo, deep down, they did not acknowledge this outsider. But now, the few of them not only looked at Suzumo with respect, there was even a hint of admiration. On the other hand, Lin Xuanjin's expression was normal. However, curiosity flashed through her eyes occasionally. Peak Master Su. Shen Yu had a bashful expression. However, he still went forward and bowed deeply to Suzumo. Previously, in the evil fiend battlefield, I was naive and offended you. Please forgive me, Peak Master Su. Nothing much. Suzumo waved it off and said indifferently, I was at fault for that as well. It would have been fine if I insisted on staying by your side. That way, you guys would have been fine as well. At the mention of that, Shen Yu and the others felt even more ashamed. Suzumo turned and inadvertently met Lin Xuanjin's gaze. Pausing for a moment, he asked, How do you feel? Are you feeling better? Lin Xuanjin nodded slightly and bowed. Thank you for saving my life, Peak Master. Pausing for a moment, she recalled everything that happened in the cave and said in a low voice in shame, Peak Master Su, previously, Forget it. Suzumo smiled indifferently and interrupted her. He took out a Blessed Heaven World badge from his storage bag and handed it to Lin Xuanjin. This is yours. Lin Xuanjin received it and took a look. Her name was written on one side of the badge. Initially, she was hunted by Xiang Ming and her Blessed Heaven World badge was snatched away by him. Now that it was taken back by Suzumo, he returned it to its rightful owner. Lin Xuanjin glanced at the back of the Blessed Heaven World badge and saw that there were 1,000 battle merits. After her Blessed Heaven World badge was snatched away by Xiang Ming, the battle merits on it were also taken away by him. The 1,000 battle merits on it, right now, were clearly transferred by Suzumo later on. Peak Master, these battle merits. The moment Lin Xuanjin spoke, Suzumo said, The 1,000 battle merits there are yours to begin with. As for how many battle merits the rest of you have, I'm not sure. You guys will have to distribute them among yourselves. Lin Xuanjin said hurriedly, I can't accept these battle merits. That's right, Peak Master Su. Our battle merits were already snatched away by Xiang Ming in the evil fiend battlefield. Wang Dong added. There's no need to decline. Suzumo said, You guys risked your lives to come to the evil fiend battlefield for the sake of Sword Burial Peak. Now that I've obtained the Venus Black Gold Stone, I naturally have to return the 1,000 battle merits to you guys. Take them. Yulan nodded slightly and said with a smile, Brother Su is a peak master after all. Why would he take advantage of you? All of you can distribute these battle merits and see what you need. You can exchange them in the treasure pagoda. When her master said that, Lin Xuanjin could no longer decline. She only took a deep look at Suzumo before distributing the battle merits in the Blessed Heaven World badge to Wang Dong and the others. Suzumo said, I'll go to the second floor of the treasure pagoda to see if there are any other treasures. Originally, he had more than 5,300 battle merits on his Blessed Heaven World badge. In exchange for the Venus Black Gold Stone, he spent 1,000 battle merits and gave another 1,000 to Lin Xuanjin and the others. He still had more than 3,000 battle merits left. When they came to the treasure pagoda 9 days ago, time was tight and everyone only took a look at the first floor. Now that there was still half a day left, he could take a look at the higher floors. Everyone from the Suzumo followed Suzumo up to the second floor of the treasure pagoda. After entering the second floor, there were clearly fewer living beings of the various races in the hall. After all, it was difficult for most perfected spirits to obtain more than 1,000 battle merits. It was useless even if they reached the second floor. The treasures in the second floor of the treasure pagoda required at least 1,000 battle merits, and the upper limit was 2,000. The number of treasures on the second floor of the treasure pagoda did not decrease at all. There was a dazzling array of immortal pills, divine weapons, universal treasures, cultivation techniques, secret skills, and immortal ores. Furthermore, The treasures on the second floor were clearly even more precious and rare than the first. In fact, Su Zimo even saw some immortal pills that had been lost in the ancient era and many precious immortal herbs on the second floor of the treasure pagoda. Some immortal herbs and trees had only appeared in a certain era in the past and were long extinct now. To think that they would appear once more in the treasure pagoda. Chapter 2809. Chapter 2809. Relic. Chapter 2809. Relic. 9 Heavens Dragon Lotus. At the end of the second floor of the treasure pagoda, Su Zimo stopped in front of a treasure chest and looked at a lotus flower in it with a tempted expression. Even his green lotus bloodline was tempted. Back when he was in the battle kingdom of the Green Firmament Immortal Domain, Immortal Queen Ling Long had mentioned this lotus flower to him. The 9 Heavens Dragon Lotus was a lotus flower that grew in the 9 Heavens era. According to the records of many ancient books, the 9 Heavens era might be the oldest era since the present. The great emperor of that generation was Great Empress 9 Heavens Mystic Maiden, who created the technique reserve. Back then, Immortal Queen Ling Long had seen records of the 9 Heavens Dragon Lotus in Great Empress 9 Heavens Mystic Maiden's inheritance ground. Countless eras and hundreds of millions of years had passed since the 9 Heavens era. All living beings of that era had long perished after countless eras and rarely left any traces. To think that he would see a relatively complete 9 Heavens Dragon Lotus on the second floor of the treasure pagoda. Although the 9 Heavens Dragon Lotus was already withered, it was definitely a great tonic for the Green Lotus true body. Legend has it that when a living 9 Heavens Dragon Lotus bloomed, a divine dragon would even be born in the center of the lotus flower. Su Zimo's gaze landed on the battle merits required on the treasure chest. 2,000 points. The 9 Heavens Dragon Lotus could be considered as one of the most precious and rare treasures on the second floor of the treasure pagoda. Su Zimo pondered for a moment and did not exchange for it immediately. Instead, he continued heading towards the third floor of the treasure pagoda. The treasures on the third floor still covered a large area, be it spirit pills, medicine, or universal treasures. Furthermore, on the third floor of the treasure pagoda, Su Zimo saw even more spirit items that were originally extinct in the past eras. There was a 9 Nether orchid that only grew in the 9 Nether era but was still alive. Of course, this precious plant required a lot of battle merits. Along the way, everyone from the sword world exclaimed from time to time. This was the first time many of them had come to the third floor of the treasure pagoda. There were many treasures that even the 4 Peak Masters had never heard of. Su Zimo walked forward and looked at the rare treasures one after another. It was no exaggeration to say that the treasures inside were incomparably precious, and some of them even tempted him. However, so far, he had yet to find what he needed. After cultivating to the perfected 1 realm, apart from cultivation resources like essence spirit stones, the most important thing for cultivators was to comprehend the heaven and earth and dermic Tao. Many perfected spirits often had sufficient cultivation resources, and the true essence in their bodies had long been accumulated to its peak. However, they could not comprehend the mysteries of their realms and could only be stuck at a bottleneck, unable to advance an inch. This was especially true for the last 2 realms of the perfected 1 realm, Hollow Nether and Paradise Void. They had extremely high requirements for cultivators to comprehend the Tao. Up till now, Su Zimo had already mastered 2 peerless divine powers, the Immortal Vanquishing Sword and the 8-Tusk Divine Strength. However, in reality, he still had a few divine powers that had been cultivated to the level of quasi-peerless divine powers. For some peerless divine powers, such as Fleeting Moment, 6 Paths of Reincarnation, and 4 Heads, 8 Arms, with his talent and opportunities, there was a high chance of him comprehending them given time and continuous accumulation. However, there were some peerless divine powers, and even dermic Daos that he could not do anything about. That included the 3 secret skills within the Taboo Mystic Classic, the Prajna Nirvana Sutra. Up till now, he had only comprehended the dermic Tao of impermanence. There were still 2 other dermic Daos, No Self and Silent Nirvana, that he could not comprehend at all. If he could comprehend the Buddhist Dharmic Taoist to the extreme and synthesize the secret skills of the dragon and elephant races, he could raise the Buddha dragon elephant to the level of a peerless divine power. Every single peerless divine power comprehended would cause a qualitative leap and improvement for cultivators. When a cultivator comprehended a peerless divine power, the power of that peerless divine power would descend to cleanse and temper their bodies, bloodlines, and essence spirits, giving them a complete transformation. At the same time, after comprehending a peerless divine power and fusing the Dharmic Tao into the Tao fruit, the cultivator's Tao fruit would become even stronger and their cultivation would increase exponentially. The stronger the Tao fruit, the stronger the grotto heaven condensed in the future. Su Zimo searched as he watched. Finally, his eyes lit up. He took a few quick steps and arrived in front of a treasure chest. Inside the treasure chest was a stone the size of a baby's fist. It was golden and round, crystal clear without any impurities, and emitted a faint golden light. It was the relic of an arhat. Furthermore, this was the relic of a supreme arhat. In the Buddhist monasteries, perfected one-realm cultivators were called arhats. The Tao fruit of an arhat was a relic. To Su Zimo, the most direct way to continue comprehending the Dharmic Tao of the Buddhist monasteries was to find the relic of an arhat. Through observing the relics and comprehending the Dharmic Tao of the Buddhist monasteries inside to verify what he had learned, he might be able to gain some insights. Among all the relics of arhats, the relic of a supreme arhat was undoubtedly the most precious. That was because the relic of a supreme arhat definitely contained a peerless divine power. If the peerless divine power of the Buddhist monasteries was the Buddha dragon elephant, that would be of the greatest help to Su Zimo. The relic of a supreme arhat. Right then, Lu Yun walked over and murmured when he saw the relic. Without hesitation, Su Zimo placed the blessed heaven world badge in the groove on the treasure chest and spent a total of 3,000 battle merits to exchange for the supreme arhat's relic. What a pity! Su Zimo frowned slightly. Upon closer inspection, he realized that there were 2 fine cracks on the relic. A crack in the Tao fruit meant that the Dharmic Tao contained within might be incomplete and would affect the comprehension of cultivators. Lu Yun said, "Actually, there are some perfectly preserved and flawless Tao fruits of supreme perfected spirits on the 5th floor of the treasure pagoda. However, each of the perfectly preserved supreme perfected spirit Tao fruits requires 5,000 battle merits." So much. Su Zimo was secretly speechless. Actually, the most important thing when exchanging for the Tao fruit of a supreme perfected spirit is to comprehend the peerless divine power within, Lu Yun said. However, in reality, even if you obtain the Tao fruit of a supreme perfected spirit, you might not be able to comprehend the peerless divine power within. Su Zimo nodded. In order to comprehend a peerless divine power, one required talent, opportunity, luck, timing, accumulation, opportunity, karma, and other factors. There could not be anything less. If anyone could comprehend peerless divine powers with just the Tao fruits of supreme perfected spirits, there would have been supreme perfected spirits everywhere long ago. Lu Yun continued, "The reason why this supreme arhat's Tao fruit is placed on the 3rd floor of the treasure pagoda is because it's flawed. Even though there's just 2 tiny cracks, that's a full 2,000 battle merits difference. On the 5th floor of the treasure pagoda, not only are there Tao fruits of supreme perfected spirits, there are even 9 tribulation spirit treasures. Every single 9 tribulation spirit treasure requires 5,000 battle merits as well." Chapter 2810, Chapter 2810, Tao Guidance. Chapter 2810, Tao Guidance. After exchanging for the Supreme Arhat Relic, Su Zimo did not have much battle merits left, and was only left with around 300. He returned to the 1st floor of the treasure pagoda and spent another 100-odd battle merits to exchange for a Tao fruit of an ordinary perfected spirit of the elephant race. Apart from Buddhism and the Dharmic Tao of the dragon race, one had to try their best to comprehend the divine powers and secret skills of the elephant race if they wanted to comprehend the Buddha dragon elephant. As for Su Zimo's dermic Tao in the elephant race, it came from the divine elephant breathing technique and innate divine powers. It was slightly weak, and that was why he exchanged for the Tao fruit of a perfected spirit of the elephant race. As for Lin Xuanjin, Wang Dong and the others, they only walked around the treasure pagoda and did not exchange for anything. The few of them had the same thoughts. They would keep the battle merits this time round and come to the blessed heaven world the next time to exchange for better treasures after accumulating more battle merits. Everyone stored their blessed heaven world badges in the blessed heaven world before leaving Blessed Island, heading out of the blessed heaven world. Although Lin Xuanjin, Wang Dong, and the others did not exchange for any treasures during this trip to the blessed heaven world, they felt that their dermic Tao had become more profound and their combat strength had increased after a few days of fighting in the evil fiend battlefield with the baptism of blood. After Lin Xuanjin narrowly escaped death, her comprehension of the immortal vanquishing sword increased by another level and was just lacking a flash of inspiration. Of course, Su Zimo was the one who benefited the most among the few of them. It was not merely the supreme Arhat relic and Tao fruit of the elephant race from the treasure pagoda. There were also the 10 heavenly eyes of the heavenly eye race. Among them, Xiang Ming's heavenly eye contained a peerless divine power. If Su Zimo could comprehend all 10 heavenly eyes, the supreme Arhat relic and the dermic Tao of the elephant race perfected spirit's Tao fruit, there was a high chance that he would advance further and enter the hollow nether realm. After leaving the blessed heaven world, Lu Yun summoned his immortal boat to carry everyone. He broke through the void and they prepared to head back to the sword world. Su Zimo looked at the blessed heaven world behind him in deep thought. The blessed heaven world was unfathomable, as though it was shrouded in a layer of fog that could not be penetrated. The 10-day deadline was over. If he wanted to come to the blessed heaven world again, he could only wait for 1,000 years. On the immortal boat, Lu Yun seemed to have read Su Zimo's mind and said seriously, "Brother Su, it's best if you don't come here before your cultivation reaches the paradise void realm." "Why do you say that?" Su Zimo asked. Lu Yun said, "In the battle of the 7-star sword world, we became enemies with the heavenly eye race. In today's battle, you killed the supreme perfected spirit, Xiang Ming. The heavenly eye world even lost a king. Given the vengeful nature of the heavenly eye race, they will definitely not let the matter rest. Previously in the blessed heaven world, King Cold Eye even sacrificed a king in exchange for your life. Who knows what crazy actions he will do in the future?" Yulan nodded as well. "That's right. Furthermore, the number 1 perfected spirit of the heavenly eye race, Xia Yin, is far stronger than Xiang Ming. According to what I know, Xia Yin might have comprehended 2 peerless divine powers. After comprehending a peerless divine power, one could be called a supreme perfected spirit and leave their name on the battle merits jade steel. If Xia Yin comprehended 2 peerless divine powers, it was obvious how strong he was." Su Zimo nodded. "It's no wonder why he's rank 1 on the battle merits jade steel. He's indeed capable." Although Su Zimo seemed to be praising him, his tone was nonchalant, as though he was taking it casually. When Yulan saw that Su Zimo did not seem to take it to heart, she reminded, "Furthermore, the peerless divine power that Xia Yin comprehended is the 6 paths of reincarnation. There were not many peerless divine powers, and up till now, only about a dozen or so were made known to everyone. The power of every peerless divine power manifested differently. For example, astral imprisonment did not have much killing power and was meant to restrict the movements of the other party. As for 6 paths of reincarnation, it was definitely one of the strongest killing power among the many peerless divine powers." "Oh." Su Zimo raised his brow slightly. It had been countless years since anyone could comprehend the 6 paths of reincarnation to the extreme and reach the level of a peerless divine power. He was indeed surprised that Xia Yin could control the 6 paths of reincarnation. When Yulan saw that Su Zimo seemed to take it seriously, she explained, "Xia Yin was born with a pair of yin-yang eyes. It's said that during one of his Tao comprehension sessions, he opened his yin-yang eyes by chance and accidentally broke through the barrier between yin and yang. He caught a glimpse of the outline of the 6 paths of reincarnation in the netherworld." Then he shouldn't have seen it as clearly as I did. Su Zimo murmured softly. What did you say? Yulan did not hear Su Zimo's muttering and asked instinctively. Nothing much. Su Zimo did not explain either. Xiaoyin had only caught a glimpse of the 6 paths of reincarnation. Back then, he was truly in the netherworld and stood in front of the 6 paths of reincarnation. Lu Yun said, no matter what, since we've already obtained the Venus Black Gold Stone, let's not go to the blessed heaven world for the time being. Su Zimo did not comment. The danger Lu Yun and the others were worried about was only one of them. However, Su Zimo was worried about something else. To him, the safest place was naturally the Sword World. There were more than 10 emperors presiding over the Sword World. Any danger would naturally be eliminated instantly. However, there were indeed many treasures in the blessed pavilion that tempted him. If he wanted to exchange for those treasures, he still had to wait for a suitable opportunity. On the return journey, everyone from the Sword World either gathered together to chat or cultivated alone in their rooms. Su Zimo belonged to the latter. One day, he was comprehending the Dermic Tao of a heavenly eye when footsteps sounded from outside. The person hesitated for a long time before knocking gently on the door. Peak Master Su, I'm Lin Xuanjin. I wish to meet you. Come in, Su Zimo replied. Lin Xuanjin pushed the door open and entered. When she arrived in front of Su Zimo, she bowed respectfully before saying, Peak Master, I heard that you have long comprehended the immortal vanquishing sword. I would like to seek your guidance. All right. Su Zimo smiled and agreed without hesitation. If this was in the past, given Lin Xuanjin's pride, she would definitely not ask Su Zimo, a perfected immortal at the celestial being realm. But now that Su Zimo had saved her life and displayed incomparably powerful strength in the evil fiend battlefield, the former number 1 perfected immortal of the Sword World finally put down her pride and came to ask. Su Zimo extended his palm, and with a thought, 3 sword chi appeared in his palm. They surged with killing intent. The origin of the peerless divine power, the immortal vanquishing sword, originates from a mystical book. The 3 sentences in it are the essence of the immortal vanquishing sword. As the saying goes, when the heaven's killing intent is released. The reason why Su Zimo could comprehend the immortal vanquishing sword so quickly was not only because of his talent and comprehension of the sword Tao. It was also because he possessed the Yin-Yang Talisman Sutra. With the Dermic Tao in that mystical book, he could compare it against the 3 sentences of the immortal vanquishing sword, and everything naturally came to fruition. Su Zimo dissected the Dermic Tao of the Yin-Yang Talisman Sutra and displayed it in the form of the sword Tao in front of Lin Xuanjin. He fused it into the 3 great sword arts and finally formed the immortal vanquishing sword. Lin Xuanjin watched the entire process, and the light in her eyes intensified. Finally, at a certain moment, a thought flashed through her mind. As though she was enlightened, all the bottlenecks and questions were resolved. Chapter 2811, Chapter 2811, Hollow Nether Realm. Chapter 2811, Hollow Nether Realm. Lin Xuanjin closed her eyes, and the killing intent in her body gathered continuously, becoming purer and more condensed. A blood-colored sword appeared behind her and materialized, turning more corporeal. The terrifying power of a peerless divine power descended on her body and began to cleanse her body and bloodline. Success. Su Zimo looked at the woman before him and nodded slightly. Lin Xuanjin was indeed very talented in the sword Tao. With just a little guidance, she comprehended the key and the true meaning of the immortal vanquishing sword. Although Lin Xuanjin was not his disciple, he did not hold back in imparting the Tao this time round. From today onwards, the Sword World would have another supreme perfected spirit. The commotion in the room instantly alarmed Lu Yun, Yulan, and the other peak masters. The 4 of them arrived outside Su Zimo's room immediately. It seems like Lin Xuanjin has already comprehended the immortal vanquishing sword. This is great timing. We can stand guard for her here. In my opinion, there's no need for us to appear. Didn't you notice whose room Lin Xuanjin is in? All these years, Xuanjin has always lacked a Dao companion. Brother Su is indeed rather good. There's a difference in seniority. It's fine as long as they're about the same age. The four peak masters gradually left, and their voices slowly vanished. Su Zimo had a calm expression as he closed his eyes to rest. Opposite him, Lin Xuanjin's bloodline and body were baptized by the divine power of the immortal vanquishing sword. Perhaps because it was too violent, an abnormal blush suddenly appeared on her face. The entire process lasted for half a day before Lin Xuanjin gradually recovered. Although her cultivation realm was still at the Paradise Void realm and did not increase much, it looked like her essence, chi, and spirit had more than doubled. After the baptism of the peerless divine power, her combat strength had also increased by a level. Thank you for your guidance, Peak Master. Lin Xuanjin bowed once more towards Su Zimo. There's no need for formalities. Su Zimo nodded slightly and smiled. Lin Xuanjin stood on the spot and seemed to have thought of something. She wanted to say something but hesitated. Is there anything else? Su Zimo asked. Lin Xuanjin pondered for a moment and asked in a seemingly casual manner, Peak Master, do you know anything about the Sever Sword Dao I cultivate? I roughly know a little. Su Zimo nodded. It's to use the heart of the sword to sever the 7 emotions and 6 desires so that one is separate from the secular realm. That way, one can reach a realm that was aloof from worldly affairs and is unattached to all things external. Lin Xuanjin nodded and added, we don't really sever our 7 emotions and 6 desires by cultivating the Sever Sword Dao. We merely reach a Sever Sword realm where we are not attached to external things. Yes. Su Zimo had a calm expression and lowered his gaze. A trace of disappointment flashed through Lin Xuanjin's eyes before returning to normal. She said in a low voice, Peak Master Su, I'll take my leave. It was only after Lin Xuanjin left that Su Zimo looked up at her back view. Unperturbed, he continued comprehending the Dermic Dao. A few days later, everyone from the sword world finally returned. Su Zimo brought the thousands of sword cultivators who survived from the 7-star sword world back to Sword Burial Peak and placed the Venus Black Gold Stone there at the same time. Sword Burial Peak did not seem any different from before. There were only a few thousand ordinary disciples and a perfected immortal like Meng Hao. They were far inferior to the strength of the other 8 sword peaks. However, ever since everyone from the sword world returned from the blessed heaven world, all the sword cultivators could vaguely sense that Sword Burial Peak seemed to be different from before. However, no one knew the reason. As time passed, what happened in the blessed heaven world fermented and gradually spread in the sword world. Only then did many sword cultivators realize how terrifying the Peak Master of Sword Burial Peak was. Not only did this matter spread in the sword world, it had even spread to many worlds. Prior to this, only a small number of worlds knew that there was now a 9th Peak Master in the sword peaks of the sword world. After the battle in the blessed heaven world, many worlds knew that the Peak Master of the 9th sword peak was a ruthless person. After returning from the blessed heaven world, Lin Xuanjin, Wang Dong, Gong Suanyu, and the other top figures of the various sword peaks often went to Sword Burial Peak to listen to Su Zimo's teachings. Even Yun Ting went a few times. Actually, ever since Sword Burial Peak was established, Su Zimo would open a forum to impart the Dermic Dao every once in a while. However, it was extremely deserted at the foot of Sword Burial Peak, and almost no one came to listen to his teachings. Half of the perfected immortals of the various sword peaks had cultivation realms that surpassed Su Zimo, who would care about his teachings. However, as the news of the battle in the blessed heaven world spread, more and more sword cultivators came to listen to the teachings at the forum of Sword Burial Peak. Most importantly, every sword cultivator felt that they had benefited greatly after hearing it. Although Su Zimo's cultivation realm was only at the celestial being realm, he had once received the teachings of great Emperor Zenith Heaven and possessed many taboo mystic classics. His understanding of the Sword Dao had already far surpassed his peers. Of course, for Su Zimo, the most important thing for the next period of time was to comprehend Dermic Dao and divine powers. In the blink of an eye, 300 years passed. Su Zimo comprehended another peerless divine power, 4 heads, 8 arms. This peerless divine power originated from his 9 of 9 heavenly tribulation. He had experienced it personally and felt the divine power of 4 heads, 8 arms. No one could comprehend this peerless divine power more easily than him. After receiving the baptism of the divine power of 4 heads, 8 arms, the bloodline, physique, and essence spirit of the green lotus true body increased once more, and his cultivation realm improved as well. In the 800th year, Su Zimo finally comprehended 6 paths of reincarnation. When 6 paths of reincarnation passed through his body as a peerless divine power, his grade 12 creation green lotus body almost could not withstand it and collapsed several times before recovering. After 6 consecutive collapses and healing, the green lotus true body was reborn and was enveloped by an even more mysterious aura, as though he had already jumped out of reincarnation. In the 1000th year, Su Zimo comprehended the supreme Arhat relic and finally comprehended the profundity of the second secret skill of the Prajna Nirvana Sutra. The true meaning of the so-called no-self was to place the self in the state of emptiness, thus reaching the state of no-self. At that point, no dharmic arts could taint the body. The comprehension of emptiness within that secret skill corresponded to the hollow nether realm of the perfected One realm. In Xiangming's heavenly eye, there was also his comprehension of emptiness and space thanks to astral imprisonment. As a result, Su Zimo's cultivation in the celestial being realm increased exponentially. In fact, he had already touched the barrier of the hollow nether realm and could break through at any moment. A short year later, due to his improved attainments in Buddhism and the dharmic Tao of the dragon and elephant races, Su Zimo finally pushed the power of the Buddha dragon elephant to its limits, and it reached the level of a peerless divine power. The peerless divine power of the Buddhist Dharma descended and baptized the green lotus true body once more. With the help of that divine power, Su Zimo broke through the bottleneck and entered the hollow nether realm. Under normal circumstances, no matter how talented and resourceful one was, their cultivation speed would slow down after cultivating to the perfected One realm. For example, Yun Ting had long entered the convergence realm. Even after 1,000 years, he had yet to advance to the celestial being realm. It was the same for Baiming Shui. As for Su Zimo, the reason why he could advance to the hollow nether realm in a short 1,000 years was because he comprehended 3 peerless divine powers and a taboo secret skill during that period of time. The descent of the 3 peerless divine powers alone brought about an extremely terrifying change to the green lotus true body and increased his cultivation realm. Furthermore, with his comprehension towards emptiness and the huge amount of cultivation resources, it was only normal for Su Zimo to advance to the hollow nether realm. Chapter 28:12, Chapter 28:12, Ghost World. Chapter 28:12, Ghost World. 1,000 years had passed and Su Zimo could enter the blessed heaven world again. However, the time was not ripe yet. If he rashly headed to the blessed heaven world, there was a high chance that he would encounter a huge danger. Furthermore, that danger did not merely come from the heavenly eye race. For the past 1,000 years, Su Zimo would attempt to establish a connection with the martial Tao prime body every once in a while during his cultivation. However, there was no response. It had been 2,000 years since the 2 true bodies separated in the netherworld. There was only one explanation for this situation. The martial Tao prime body had yet to return to the upper world. As the 2 true bodies were in 2 separate worlds and were separated by powerful world barriers, they could not communicate. It had been 2,000 years since the martial Tao prime body followed the void Yaksha into the ghost Tao. However, he could not return to the upper world still, and no one knew what happened. According to the void Yaksha, the ghost Tao was also an independent world that was on par with the upper world. However, the ghost Tao was different from the hell Tao. The ghost Tao was flawless and its laws were complete. Not only were there emperor experts, there were even terrifying existences like Brahma Ghost, Mother, who was very likely a great emperor. Although the martial Tao prime body had stepped into the martial domain realm, he was only at lesser mastery of it. In terms of combat strength, he could suppress all Grotto Heaven Realm Kings, but it was difficult for him to win against Quasi-Emperor experts. With the Hell Suppression Tripod, Soul Lantern, and Netherworld Treasure Mirror, he might be able to fight a Quasi-Emperor. There were way too many experts in the Ghost Dao who could threaten the Martial Dao Prime Body. Su Zimo sighed gently and composed himself once more, continuing to cultivate the Dao. No matter what the Martial Dao Prime Body experienced in the Ghost Dao, he could do nothing and could only leave the Martial Dao Prime Body to deal with it himself. The Martial Dao Prime Body leaped into the Ghost Dao and could not control his body at all. He felt the world spin as though he had fallen into a gigantic vortex and lost his 5 senses instantly. In fact, he could not even sense the passage of time. Only a remnant of his spirit perception allowed him to determine that he was not in any danger. The Void Yaksha was beside him and curled up with his eyes closed like a baby. The two of them could not communicate verbally or with their spirit consciousnesses. They could only let nature take its course and go with the flow. It was a strange feeling. Relying on his remaining spirit perception, the Martial Dao Prime Body tried his best to sense the outside world. It was as though he was in the long river of time. His vision was not dark, but a colorful scene. In this cycle of reincarnation, every single drop of blood in his body and his essence spirit seemed to be stripped out of his body and entered the void. After an unknown period of time, the Martial Dao Prime Body seemed to have penetrated a pool of water. The ubiquitous feeling of being stripped away suddenly vanished. The Martial Dao Prime Body tried his best to control his body, and his 5 senses gradually recovered. He took a deep breath and opened his eyes abruptly. The surroundings were dark and the world was filled with a cold heaven and earth essence chi that seemed sinister without any light. Of course, that darkness did not affect the eyesight of the Martial Dao Prime Body. The Void Yaksha at the side gradually recovered as well. He stretched his body and his muscles. He took a look at his surroundings, and a hint of excitement flashed through the depths of his eyes. This is the ghost world. The Void Yaksha was all too familiar with the surrounding environment. The Hell world is filled with a large amount of Nether chi, and this is the ghost chi in the ghost world. The Martial Dao Prime Body nodded. Be it ghost chi or Nether chi, they were based on heaven and earth essence chi. However, the energy inside was different. How long have we been traveling through the 6 paths of reincarnation? The Martial Dao Prime Body frowned and asked, why do I feel like it's been more than 1,000 years? That's possible, of course. The Void Yaksha said, the path we took to enter the ghost world is through the 6 paths of reincarnation. The 6 paths of reincarnation was originally a path for souls to reincarnate. Living beings with bodies of flesh and blood like us have great resistance when traveling through the 6 paths of reincarnation. It's possible for us to experience hundreds or even thousands of years. The Martial Dao Prime Body pondered in silence. Although they also crossed 2 independent worlds to head to the Netherworld from the Hell world, the Hell Yellow Springs was connected to the Hell world after all. Therefore, at the connecting spot, they broke through the world barrier and crossed the 2 worlds. The Netherworld and the Ghost Dao were not connected. The two of them entered the Ghost Dao from the Netherworld and walked through the 6 paths of reincarnation. That was why they floated continuously in the cycle of reincarnation and only descended into the ghost world after an unknown period of time. According to what you said previously, the Ghost Dao, Hell Dao, Azura Dao, and Beast Dao are all independent worlds that nurture living beings of different races. In other words, the world you descend upon depends on the passageway you jump into from the entrance of the 6 paths of reincarnation. The Martial Dao Prime Body asked, what are the human Dao and heavenly Dao? Are they also 2 independent worlds? I don't think so. The Void Yaksha shook his head. I'm not sure about the human Dao and heavenly Dao either. The Martial Dao Prime Body frowned slightly. That was strange. According to the rules of the 6 paths of reincarnation, there should have been 6 independent worlds. However, the human Dao and heavenly Dao were different from the other 4. If the essence of the 6 Daos was the same, what kind of world would the human Dao and heavenly Dao be, and what living beings would be nurtured? Were they just ordinary humans in the human Dao? What was there in the world of the heavenly Tao? The 6 paths of reincarnation seemed to be shrouded in a layer of fog and could not be seen clearly. Netherworld, 6 paths of reincarnation, Nether River. What was their relationship with the trichiliocosm? Or rather, what was their relationship with the major chiliocosm? Just as the martial Tao prime body was deep in thought, the void yaksha seemed to be impatient and urged, "Let's go. Let's hurry so that we can help you return to the medium chiliocosm." Although the martial Tao prime body remained calm on the surface, he suddenly felt wary. The void yaksha had committed a huge crime in the ghost world and was exiled by the Brahma ghost mother to the Nether River. Now that he had returned to his former home, he should have some reservations. However, not only was the void yaksha not afraid at all, he even revealed a hint of excitement. The yaksha race was not kind to begin with. Back in Bitter Springs Hell, not only was the void yaksha not grateful at all when the martial Tao prime body saved him, he even wanted to kill the martial Tao prime body. In the end, it was only because the martial Tao prime body suppressed the void yaksha forcefully with his powerful strength that the latter submitted. Furthermore, he promised that he would definitely help the martial Tao prime body return to the medium chiliocosm. Later on, after entering the netherworld, the void yaksha followed beside the martial Tao prime body and had always been honest. Only then did the martial Tao prime body gradually lower his guard. Right now, the emotions revealed by the void yaksha inadvertently alarmed the martial Tao prime body once more. The yaksha race was ferocious and cunning. It was not surprising for them to break their promise. The martial Tao prime body did not attack rashly. This was the ghost world, and he was way too unfamiliar with it. Since he was already here, there was no way out. He could only try his best to inquire about the situation of the ghost world from the void yaksha and find a way to return to the medium chiliocosm before adapting to the situation. Chapter 28:13. Chapter 28:13. 9 Nether Abyss. Chapter 28:13. 9 Nether Abyss. The void yaksha observed his surroundings and tore through the void, opening a spatial tunnel. He turned around and said, "Follow me." The martial Tao prime body had a calm expression, as though he did not suspect anything. He took a step forward and followed behind the void yaksha. At that distance, the martial Tao prime body could guarantee that as long as anything happened, he would be able to suppress the void yaksha immediately. "Where are we going?" the martial Tao prime body asked in a seemingly casual manner. "The 9 Nether Abyss," the void yaksha replied. A thought flashed through the mind of the martial Tao prime body. The 9 Nether Abyss? He wondered if the 9 Nether Abyss was related to the former Great Empress 9 Nether. Before the martial Tao prime body could ask, the void yaksha explained, the ghost world can roughly be divided into 2 big ghost domains, separated by the 9 Nether Abyss. On one side is our yaksha ghost domain. It's divided into 8 planes and are led by 8 yakshas. These 8 yakshas are Emperor Realm experts and were personally conferred their titles by Lady Ghost Mother. "What title do you have?" the martial Tao prime body asked. The void yaksha smacked his lips. "Although I'm a void yaksha, I haven't cultivated to the Emperor Realm. How can I be qualified to be given a title by Lady Ghost Mother? She only gave me a name, Ugly Slave." Ugly Slave, that name is truly casual. Seems like this void yaksha is truly insignificant to Brahma Ghost Mother. The martial Tao prime body thought to himself. The void yaksha continued. On the other side of the 9 Nether Abyss is the Rakshasa ghost domain. There are 10 planes ruled by 10 female Rakshasas. The expression of the martial Tao prime body changed. Rakshasa ghost domain. Suddenly, the martial Tao prime body asked, "Does the Rakshasa ghost domain belong to the Rakshasa race?" "That's right." The void yaksha nodded. Indeed. Back when the Green Lotus True Body was in the Divine Firmament Immortal Domain, he entered an Azura battlefield to help Xie Qingqing obtain the Prince's Seal. There, the Green Lotus True Body came into contact with the Yaksha race for the first time. The moment he saw the Yaksha race, the image of the Rakshasa race appeared in his heart, and he had a nagging feeling that the two races were related. To think that the Rakshasa and Yaksha races were both from the ghost race and were living beings of the hungry ghost Tao. It was no wonder why some people called them Yaksha ghosts and Rakshasa ghosts. In fact, through their names, the origins of the two races had already been revealed. The Rakshasa race was one of the primordial 9 races in Tianhuang mainland. However, there was no world for the Rakshasas in the Trichilia cosm. To think that it was because they were hidden in the hungry ghost Tao, one of the 6 paths. The martial Tao prime body asked again, the 10 female Rakshasas you mentioned earlier on should be emperor experts as well, right? That's right. The Void Yaksha said, of course, there are more than these 18 emperor experts in the 2 ghost domains. As he said that, the Void Yaksha turned to look at the martial Tao prime body. However, the martial Tao prime body wore a silver mask and there were no emotions revealed. Only his eyes could be seen, but even then, they were as deep as the sea was calm. In reality, the situation in the ghost world indeed made the martial Tao prime body feel troubled. Up till now, he was at lesser mastery of the martial domain realm and was invincible at the grotto heaven realm. Only by summoning the hell suppression tripod and other treasures would he have a chance of fighting a quasi-emperor. Back in the hell world, there were 3 quasi-emperors. Although he killed one by force, he was also injured by the remaining 2 quasi-emperors. His blood stimulated the netherworld treasure mirror, and he killed another quasi-emperor, allowing him to subdue the hell world. The battle in the netherworld was a special situation. It was because the damage of the soul lantern to the soul was extremely great. That was why he could rely on the soul lantern to fight against the emperor realm experts of the netherworld. However, the situation in the ghost world was completely different from the netherworld and hell world. Firstly, there were many emperor experts presiding over the ghost world. Secondly, emperor experts from as the Yaksha and Rakshasa races were protected by their bodies and soul lanterns did not pose much of a threat to them. Perhaps only the netherworld treasure mirror could threaten the emperor experts of the ghost world. As for the netherworld treasure mirror, it required a large amount of essence blood and was extremely harmful to the martial Tao prime body. It was a method of injuring himself to injure the enemy. Of course, if it really came to that, the martial Tao prime body would have to summon the netherworld treasure mirror to fight to the death against 1 or 2 emperors of the ghost world, even if he had to sacrifice his essence blood. The 2 of them traveled through the spatial tunnel for more than half a day before descending again. Initially, the ghost world was pitch black. However, a dark green light that crossed the void appeared in front of the place where the 2 of them landed again, as though it was splitting the ghost world into 2. The Void Yaksha pointed ahead with an excited expression. The 9 nether abyss is ahead. The surrounding void is chaotic and distorted, making it impossible to pass through. Let's just walk over. We can return to the medium Kiliacosm through the 9 nether abyss? The martial Tao prime body asked. Of course, the Void Yaksha said with extreme certainty. The martial Tao prime body asked again, how? The Void Yaksha hesitated for a moment before grinning. You'll know when we get there. The martial Tao prime body did not say anything else and merely looked at the back of the Void Yaksha with a dark gaze. Right now, he was almost certain that the Void Yaksha had other motives. The Void Yaksha had been imprisoned in Bitter Springs Hell for countless years and soaked in the Hell Bitter Springs all year round. His flesh was rotten, and he endured countless torture and pain without submitting. Right now, it was a little abnormal for the Void Yaksha to take the initiative to bring him here after being suppressed by him once. The 2 of them walked towards the dark green light ahead one after another. As the 2 of them approached, the martial Tao prime body felt the ghost chi in the surroundings thicken and gradually turn cold, seeping into his body through his pores. However, his bloodline was like scorching lava and the cold aura could not affect him much. After taking a few more steps, the martial Tao prime body frowned slightly. The cold aura became more and more obvious. Not only that, there was also a chaotic evil thought that could cause one to hallucinate, making it seem as though countless ghostly shadows and illusions were charging towards him. The martial Tao prime body stabilized his Tao heart and 2 purple flames appeared in his eyes. All the evil thoughts and illusions vanished instantly. The Void Yaksha in front turned back to take another look. When he saw that the martial Tao prime body could move freely and did not seem to be affected at all, he was slightly stunned. However, he quickly concealed it and returned to normal. Right then, the gaze of the martial Tao prime body shifted and landed on the ground not far away. Orchids that shone with a dark light grew there. 9 Nether orchid. These plants should have grown in the 9 Nether era and had been extinct for countless eras. To think that he would see so many of them here. This place was called the 9 Nether Abyss and was filled with plants that grew in the 9 Nether era. Could this place really be related to the legendary Great Empress 9 Nether? The martial Tao prime body was not interested in the 9 Nether orchid. However, to the Green Lotus true body, the 9 Nether orchid was definitely a rare tonic. Chapter 28:14. Chapter 28:14. Battle in the Abyss. Chapter 28:14. Battle in the Abyss. The martial Tao prime body waved his hand and uprooted a large area of the 9 Nether orchids in front of him. Soil flew endlessly and the surrounding ground trembled slightly. What are you doing? The commotion behind him shocked the Void Yaksha. When he turned around and saw the actions of the martial Tao prime body, his eyes widened and he could not help but growl. This isn't the hell world. You don't have the right to do whatever you want. If you alarm the experts of our race, you won't be able to leave alive. Oh. The martial Tao prime body had an indifferent expression as he pocketed the 9 Nether orchids, unmoved. He could sense that the commotion here had already alarmed many living beings and powerful auras were awakened one after another. In the darkness, cracks appeared one after another and tall figures crawled out, emitting a terrifying aura. They were all kings of the Yaksha race. Roar! Roar! Another series of ear-piercing cries sounded from the surroundings. In the darkness, countless Yakshas were speeding over. The aura of a human. The Yaksha kings sniffed the air and instantly locked their gazes on the martial Tao prime body. Their eyes were ferocious as they licked their lips with their scarlet tongues and drooled like hungry ghosts that had just been released. At the same time, the commander of the Yaksha kings noticed the Void Yaksha. His expression changed and he shouted with killing intent, "Ugly slave, you're not dead?" The Void Yaksha's heart sank as he explained hurriedly, "Brother Knight, I only survived because I endured extreme hardship and managed to escape death. I came back this time round because I wanted to meet Lady Ghost Mother. You've committed a heinous crime and you're not worthy of meeting Lady Ghost Mother." The Yaksha commander shouted and interrupted. "Right now, Lady Ghost Mother is in hibernation. How dare you bring human living beings to infiltrate such an important place of our ghost world? You truly have ulterior motives and are unforgivable." The Void Yaksha was anxious and glanced at the martial Tao prime body warily. Suddenly, he sent a voice transmission with his spirit consciousness. "Brother Knight, this is a misunderstanding. I brought this human to Lady Ghost Mother to atone for my sins. This human's identity is extraordinary. He's the Lord of Hell and has many treasures on him." The Yaksha commander sneered and glanced at the martial Tao prime body, saying disdainfully, "Him? The Lord of Hell?" "It's absolutely true," the Void Yaksha said hurriedly. It was indeed incomprehensible for a human of the medium Kiliacosm to become the Lord of Hell. However, he had indeed seen it with his own eyes. Pausing for a moment, the voice of the Yaksha commander sounded in the mind of the Void Yaksha once more. "Ugly slave, even if you're right, why should I give you the credit? I want your life. I want his life too." Before his sentence was finished, the Yaksha commander waved his hand and said coldly, "Kill them." The Void Yaksha's heart sank. The situation he was most worried about still happened. The reason why he wanted to secretly bring the martial Tao prime body to the River of Life to seek an audience with Lady Ghost Mother was to avoid being hunted down by his other clansmen. At the same time, he wanted to offer the martial Tao prime body to Lady Ghost Mother to atone for his sins. To think that the unintentional actions of the martial Tao prime body would expose the two of them and completely disrupt his plans. Furthermore, If Lady Ghost Mother was in hibernation, he would not be able to see her even if he arrived at the River of Life. Apart from the Yaksha commander, who was also a Void Yaksha, the others were from the three most common lineages of the Yaksha race: Earth Yaksha, Heaven Yaksha, and Water Yaksha. The Yakshas were like hungry wolves. In their eyes, the martial Tao prime body was like a lamb waiting to be slaughtered and emitted a strong fragrance. Upon hearing the commander's order, the Yakshas could no longer hold back. They grinned and bared their ferocious and sharp fangs, letting out excited screams as they pounced towards the martial Tao prime body. The martial Tao prime body had a fearless expression and his blood chi burned. Instantly, a scarlet halo burst forth and exploded, forming a gigantic domain of flames. Martial Tao Purgatory. A huge battle broke out near the Nine Nether Abyss. The martial Tao prime body had no intention of testing the waters at all. He released a powerful domain the moment he arrived, wanting to refine the Yaksha kings. The moment the Yaksha kings arrived, they were enveloped by the martial Tao Purgatory and fell into a sea of flames. Their bodies burned with raging flames, and they could not even take care of themselves. Yakshas beneath the Grotto Heaven realm could not even approach the martial Tao Purgatory before they were forced to retreat. Some of them who were slower in dodging turned into ashes instantly. Splash! The sound of a tsunami sounded and bloodline phenomenons appeared one after another. Many Yaksha kings who fell into the sea of flames channeled their blood chi crazily, wanting to extinguish the flames on their bodies. However, the purgatory of the martial Tao prime body contained 5 incomparably powerful flames. The Red Lotus Karmic Fire, Myriad Tribulations Fire, Dragon Phoenix Flame, Martial Spirit Fire, and Hellfire intertwined to form this terrifying purgatory that was enough to incinerate and refine everything. The moment many bloodline phenomenons of the Yakshas were condensed, they were burned into nothingness by the martial Tao purgatory and turned to ashes. Even the bloodline of the Void Yaksha could not extinguish the flames of the martial Tao purgatory, let alone the bloodlines of the ordinary Yakshas. Boom, boom, boom. Many Yakshas wailed from the burning and did not dare to hesitate as they condensed their grotto heavens of various sizes. Suddenly, 2 purple flames rose in the eyes of the martial Tao prime body and shone with a deep and bright light. That was it. In the martial Tao purgatory, the martial Tao dermic arts were condensed and every inch of space was condensed with the will of the martial Tao. If the martial Tao prime body activated it with all his might, the moment the 2 parties came into contact, some low-level Yaksha kings would be burned to ashes and their essence spirits would be destroyed. The reason why he did not use his full strength was because he wanted to wait for the Yakshas to release their grotto heavens. Not only did the martial Tao prime body want to destroy this group of Yaksha kings, more importantly, he wanted to refine all their grotto heavens and fuse them into his essence martial grotto heaven. Ordinary grotto heavens could reach the heavens and connect to the 3 realms. They could crazily plunder the heaven and earth essence chi, purifying it to refine, allowing the grotto heavens to grow continuously. As for the martial Tao prime body, he was a variable. The essence martial grotto heaven that evolved from the true martial Tao body was also a variable. The essence martial grotto heaven was outside of the 3 realms. It was already difficult for it to grow just by absorbing the heaven and earth essence chi. It could only grow by refining dermic Taos and devouring other grotto heavens. The major and minor grotto heavens of the Yakshas were all nourishment for the essence martial grotto heaven. That was because once the martial Tao prime body summoned the essence martial grotto heaven, he would feel a strong sense of danger, as though a great calamity was about to descend. However, he could avoid that danger completely by condensing the martial Tao purgatory. There was no need for the martial Tao prime body to release the essence martial grotto heaven. Just the terrifying might of the martial Tao purgatory could burn and refine other grotto heavens and fuse them into the essence martial grotto heaven. The entire process seemed to have happened naturally. As for the essence martial grotto heaven, after absorbing the dermic Taos of the other grotto heavens, it could similarly return the dermic Tao profundities to the martial Tao prime body, allowing him to help the martial Tao purgatory grow. The martial Tao Purgatory and Essence Martial Grotto Heaven could synergize perfectly and even complement each other. Chapter 28:15. Chapter 28:15. Refining it all. Chapter 28:15. Refining it all. The nine nether abyss shone with a dark green light. On the other side of the nine nether abyss, the martial Tao prime body transformed into a purgatory that enveloped dozens of Yaksha kings. Raging flames surged into the skies. The two types of light shone brightly in the dark night sky of the ghost world. Dozens of Yaksha kings realized in horror that their grotto heavens could not hold on in this purgatory. Even perfected grotto heavens could not defend against the burning of the martial Tao purgatory, let alone the major and minor grotto heavens. The five supreme flames interweaved with the dermic arts and will of the martial Tao. Crack, crack. Grotto heavens shattered one after another, and countless dermic powers fused into the martial Tao purgatory. They transformed into flames that surged into the body of the martial Tao prime body and were devoured by the essence martial grotto heaven. The martial Tao prime body stood in midair and was like a gigantic vortex, refining and devouring everything around him unscrupulously. Without the protection of the grotto heavens, the Yaksha kings could not defend against the flames of the martial Tao purgatory at all. Howl, howl, howl. Within the purgatory, the Yaksha kings let out tragic cries. Some Yaksha kings were burned to ashes in a few breaths without a corpse left. The remaining Yaksha kings could only barely hold on. Every single pore in their bodies, noses and mouths was spewing flames, and they could no longer survive. In the martial Tao purgatory, they did not even have a chance to escape. On the other side, the outcome of the battle between the Void Yaksha and the Yaksha commander had already been decided. The Void Yaksha was covered in blood, and the grotto heaven behind him had already shattered. It was stepped on by the Yaksha commander, and half of his face was buried in the moist soil, unable to move. Ugly slave, back then, you surpassed me in every aspect. Did you expect this to happen? The Yaksha commander had an excited expression as he stomped on the Void Yaksha's head repeatedly. The Void Yaksha's skull seemed to be unable to withstand it and creaked, ready to shatter at any moment. After all, he had been imprisoned in Bitter Springs Hell for too many years and soaked in the Hell Bitter Springs all year round. Not only was his cultivation realm stagnant, his body and bloodline had also suffered immense damage and destruction. Although his body seemed to have recovered after escaping from the Hell world, there were still many hidden injuries in his body. It was unknown how long he would need to recuperate if he wanted to fully recover. As for the Yaksha commander who cultivated continuously in the ghost world, the difference in situations between the two of them naturally allowed him to surpass the Void Yaksha. Ugly slave, beg me for mercy. The Yaksha commander sneered, if your attitude is sincere, I might spare your life if I'm happy. Ha 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 ha. The Void Yaksha turned his face sideways and lay in the blood-colored soil with only one eye exposed. He was already in despair. He knew the other party's methods and personality. Even if he begged for mercy, the Yaksha commander would not let him off. The only reason why the other party did not kill the Void Yaksha immediately was because he wanted to enjoy the pleasure of torturing him to death. That sort of excitement was hidden in his blood as well. If he were in the same position, he would not let his opponent off so easily either. Ugly slave, you've committed a huge crime and were exiled to the Nether River. Now, you've even lured foreign races into our race. Your crimes are unforgivable. The Yaksha commander cursed. Even the entire ghost world won't tolerate you, let alone me. Before his sentence was finished, the Yaksha commander raised his leg once more and gathered strength. Thereafter, he stomped down heavily on the Void Yaksha's head. That single stomp was enough to crush his head and destroy his essence spirit. The Void Yaksha closed his eyes. Boom! Suddenly, a loud bang sounded above his head. The Void Yaksha's heart skipped a beat, and he opened his eyes instinctively. A figure burning with flames arrived in the sky, and the Yaksha commander was shattered by a single punch from him. Immediately after, The person opened his mouth and spat out a divine dragon-heat flame that instantly engulfed the shattered flesh of the Yaksha commander. Before the Yaksha commander's essence spirit could escape, it was burned to ashes by the flames. It was the Lord of Hell. It was only at that moment that the Void Yaksha realized that the Lord of Hell had not used his full strength when the two of them fought in the Hell world. Otherwise, he would not have been able to defend against a single punch from the Lord of Hell. The Void Yaksha looked at the figure and suddenly felt guilty. If not for that person, he would still be trapped in the underground cage of Bitter Springs Hell and tortured by the Hell Bitter Springs day and night, never to see the light of day. Earlier on, that person saved his life once more. Previously, he was still thinking about how he could offer this person in exchange for his life. When the Void Yaksha saw the attitude of his own Yaksha race towards him, coupled with his guilt towards the martial Tao prime body, he could not help but feel disheartened. I lied to you previously? Oh. The martial Tao prime body looked down from above with a calm expression as he looked at the Void Yaksha beneath his feet. The Void Yaksha said, I tricked you into coming to the 9 Nether Abyss because I wanted to follow the 9 Nether Abyss to the River of Life to pay my respects to Lady Ghost Mother and offer you up to wash away my sins. You're a human and the Lord of Hell. You even have a few peerless treasures on you. If Lady Ghost Mother is happy to see them, she might pardon me. You're a human, but I'm a Yaksha. We're natural enemies. Even after you saved me, I didn't wish to be controlled by you. That was why I lied to you. The martial Tao prime body remained silent. He had long sensed the abnormality in the Void Yaksha. However, he did not expect the Void Yaksha to have a conscience and be honest with him. The Void Yaksha continued, the commotion here will definitely alarm more experts of the Yaksha race. Perhaps quasi-emperor experts or even emperor realm Yakshas will descend. Although your combat strength is strong, you're no match for them. After you. Kill me. Escape quickly. The Void Yaksha had no intention of living after saying that. Suddenly, the martial Tao prime body said, you once said that there was a way to head to the medium Kiliacosm in the ghost world. Did you lie to me about that as well? That was true. The Void Yaksha said, in the ghost world, one can descend into a medium Kiliacosm through sacrificial offerings. However, only Lady Ghost Mother has the ability to use such methods. All right. The martial Tao prime body nodded and said indifferently, since you didn't lie to me about that, I'll spare your life first. After all, he relied on this Void Yaksha to leave the Hell world and meet up with the Green Lotus True Body in the Netherworld, allowing him to use the water of the boundless springs to help the Green Lotus True Body escape the danger of the curses. That was the reason why he tolerated the Void Yaksha until now. Although they could not contact one another, the martial Tao prime body speculated that the Green Lotus True Body should have escaped danger. Since the Green Lotus True Body was fine, there was no need for him to return to the medium Kiliacosm in a hurry. As long as he knew that he could return to the medium Kiliacosm through the ghost world, he would definitely be able to find an opportunity. Of course, there were still too many unknown risks and uncertainties if this matter alarmed Brahma Ghost Mother. The martial Tao prime body arrived at the edge of the 9 Nether Abyss and looked at the dark green light flickering in the abyss. As though he sensed something, a strange glint flashed through the depths of his eyes. Chapter 28:16. Chapter 28:16. Nether Ghost Fire. Chapter 28:16. Nether Ghost Fire. The Void Yaksha looked at the figure of the martial Tao prime body with a blank expression and extremely complicated emotions. In his disheartened state, he told the truth with the intention of dying. To think that the Lord of Hell, who was decisive to kill in his eyes, did not kill him but gave him another chance. The Void Yaksha thought about it and smiled bitterly. Even if you don't kill me, the Yaksha race won't let me off. The martial Tao prime body did not seem to have heard him and suddenly asked, what's beneath the 9 Nether Abyss and why is it shining with such a dark green light? At the mention of that, a hint of fear flashed through Void Yaksha's eyes. This abyss is the burial ground of the ghost world, and the bones of countless experts of the ghost world are buried there. The malevolent chi there is the heaviest. In the extreme environment of the Nine Nether Abyss, an extremely terrifying flame was born at some point in time. It's called the Nether Ghost Fire. The Nether Ghost Fire? The gaze of the martial Dao Prime body intensified. Actually, the moment he released the martial Dao Purgatory, he could vaguely sense a powerful power hidden in the depths of the Nine Nether Abyss. That power could connect to the 5 supreme flames in his domain. Ghost flames were rather common in the cultivation world. There were even some cursed ghost flames in the Emperor's tomb. However, this was the first time he had heard of the Nether Ghost Fire. Was there a connection between the Nether Ghost Fire and the Netherworld Treasure Mirror? Of course, there are also legends that the Nether Ghost Fire came from the source of the Nether River. No one can say for sure. The Void Yaksha continued. In short, the Nether Ghost Fire in the Nine Nether Abyss is extremely terrifying and can burn blood chi. Even Emperor Realm experts of the ghost world are wary of it. This ghostly green light is the flames emitted by the Nether Ghost Fire. Right then, a terrifying aura burst forth from the direction of the Yaksha ghost domain. Countless experts of the Yaksha race woke up in the darkness. Hurry up and escape. Sensing this scene, the Void Yaksha urged hurriedly, when the Yaksha quasi-emperors descend, you won't be able to defend at all. Even if you rely on those treasures to kill 1 or 2 quasi-emperors, you'll definitely alarm the true Yaksha emperors. Although you're the Lord of Hell, you can't fight against the entire ghost world at all. As for returning to the medium Kiliacosm, don't even think about it. Lady Ghost Mother is currently in a deep sleep and is protected by the 10 female Rakshasas and 8 Yakshas. You won't be able to approach her at all. The martial Dao Prime body had a calm expression and asked indifferently, what about you? Me? The Void Yaksha grinned. I definitely won't survive. The Yaksha race will definitely not let me off. Sensing the terrifying auras that rose in the direction of the Yaksha ghost domain, the martial Dao Prime body looked down at the Nine Nether Abyss and said meaningfully, you're on your own. If you're tough, perhaps we'll meet again. With that said, the martial Dao Prime body leaped into the Nine Nether Abyss. Ah! The Void Yaksha was shocked and shouted. Crazy! He's really crazy! The Void Yaksha struggled to stand up and staggered to the edge of the abyss. He looked at the abyss and could no longer see the figure of the martial Dao Prime body. If you jump into the Nine Nether Abyss, I'm afraid we won't meet again, the Void Yaksha murmured softly. That's not right either. He laughed tragically again. I'm about to die. After we die, if our souls have the chance to enter the netherworld, we might be fated to meet once. Right then, the figures of the Yaksha race charged forward from the darkness. The few in the lead had terrifying auras and were already quasi-emperors. The rest were all kings of the Yaksha race. In the battle earlier on, dozens of Yaksha kings died and the experts of the 8 planes of the Yaksha ghost domain were alarmed. Apart from battles between the 2 ghost domains, the Yaksha ghost domain had never lost so many people in a short period of time. What happened? A Yaksha quasi-emperor in the lead asked in a deep voice. This quasi-emperor came from one of the 8 planes, the half-obscure plane. Prior to this, many Yakshas had already gathered around and witnessed the entire process. The Yakshas advanced one after another and recounted the battle that happened earlier on. Another quasi-emperor from the Mani plane rolled his eyes and looked at the Void Yaksha with a ferocious gaze. He said slowly, ugly slave, you're a sinner and yet you dare to bring foreign races into the ghost world. You deserve to die for betraying the ghost race. The half-obscure quasi-emperor said coldly. Knowing that he would definitely die, the Void Yaksha no longer had any fear in his heart. He puffed out his chest and shouted, I was indeed the one who brought that human in, but I've never betrayed the ghost race. How dare you quibble? The quasi-emperor of the Snow Mountain Plain sneered and glared at the Void Yaksha with a dark gaze. He asked slowly, tell me, how did you survive after you were exiled to the Nether River, and how did you return to the ghost world? Tell me the entire process, including the background of that human. If you hide anything, I'll definitely torture you and make you wish you were dead. The Void Yaksha felt no guilt and had nothing to hide. He said, I was exiled to the Nether River by Lady Ghost Mother and thought that I would definitely die. Unexpectedly, I was accidentally swept into another tributary of the Nether River, and this tributary led to the Hell World. In the depths of the Nine Nether Abyss, the martial Tao Prime body could no longer control his body and could only descend continuously. There seemed to be an invisible force pulling his body forcefully from the abyss. The martial Tao Prime body lowered his head. Under the dim green light, the bottom of the abyss was filled with corpses and mountains. The most obvious characteristic of the corpses was that they did not have any flesh on them, but their bones were intact. Some of the skeletons maintained their combat stances right before their deaths. Through the forms of the skeletons, it was easy to tell the race of the owner of the skeletons. Some were from the Yaksha race. Some of the skeletons had bone wings on their backs and were clearly of the Rakshasa race. Suddenly, the gaze of the martial Tao Prime body focused on a Rakshasa skeleton. There were 4 pairs of bone wings on the back of the Rakshasa skeleton. Perfected spirits of the Rakshasa race only had 2 pairs of wings. Kings had 3 pairs of wings. Only by cultivating to the Emperor realm could there be 4 pairs of wings. That was a Rakshasa of the Emperor realm. As for the skull of the Rakshasa Emperor, it was penetrated by the sharp claws of another Yaksha. The bone wings on the Rakshasa's back severed half of the head of the Yaksha opposite him. If he was not wrong, this Yaksha was also an Emperor realm expert. As expected of the burial ground of the ghost world in the depths of the Nine Nether Abyss, there were even the bones of Emperor realm experts. Furthermore, there were more than just these 2. Wherever the martial Tao Prime body looked, he could see more than 10 Emperor realm skeletons that were relatively well-preserved standing on the countless bones. Although they were only skeletons that had died for an unknown period of time, they still emitted a shuddering aura. Ghost chi lingered and their mites were still present. Chapter 2817. Chapter 2817. Martial Domain Realm, Greater Mastery. Chapter 2817. Martial Domain Realm, Greater Mastery. Nether green flames were burning through the cracks of the skeletons. The temperature was not high, but the martial Tao Prime body felt an intense burning pain. The Nether ghost fire, as though it sensed the descent of the martial Tao Prime body, the flames that were initially burning quietly in the cracks of its bones suddenly became irritable. The flames intensified and countless ghostly shadows seemed to appear, drowning the martial Tao Prime body instantly. Bang! The martial Tao Prime body slammed heavily against the pile of bones. He was already engulfed by the Nether ghost fire, and his blood chi was depleting rapidly. The Void Yaksha was right. The Nether ghost fire could burn one's blood chi. Not only that, the flesh of the martial Tao Prime body was also burning wildly. It was as though countless ghosts were hiding in the flames and biting his flesh crazily. The figure of the martial Tao Prime body shriveled at a visible speed. Pain. Intense pain. However, that pain was far inferior to the pain brought about by the hellfire in Avicii. The martial Tao Prime body could still maintain his consciousness. Of course, he did not choose to jump down the Nine Nether Abyss on impulse. The battle earlier on had already alarmed the Yaksha ghost domain. Just as the Void Yaksha had said, once a quasi-emperor or emperor realm expert descended, he would not be able to defend at all. Furthermore, he was way too unfamiliar with the ghost world. Even if he escaped immediately, he might not be able to hide for long. The best way out was the Nine Nether Abyss. There was the Nether ghost fire in the Nine Nether Abyss, and even Emperor realm experts were wary of it. Naturally, the martial Tao Prime body could not defend against it either. However, as long as he could fuse it into his body before the Nether ghost fire killed him and turn it into the 6th flame of the martial Tao Purgatory, the Nether ghost fire would no longer be a threat. That action was naturally extremely dangerous. However, the martial Tao Prime body had a similar experience in Avicii before. That was the reason why he took the risk and tried to devour and refine the Nether ghost fire. If he failed, he would inevitably die. However, if he could succeed, the improvement to the martial Tao Prime body would be way too great. With the addition of another powerful and terrifying flame into the martial Tao Purgatory, the increase in the power of the domain would only be one of the benefits. In fact, there was a high chance that the Nether Ghost Fire could raise the cultivation realm of the martial Tao Prime body to another level in a short period of time. The martial Tao Prime body endured the pain and sat cross-legged. His clothes had long turned to ashes, and even the Mara mask on his face had fallen off. If anyone else was here, they would not be able to recognize him. The martial Tao Prime body was already unrecognizable under the burning of the Nether Ghost Fire. Thankfully, he cultivated the martial Tao and condensed the true martial Tao body. Every single inch of his flesh contained the dermic formulation and will of the martial Tao. Otherwise, his flesh would have been incinerated in just a few breaths. This abyss was a place of extreme pain, and there were countless ghost skeletons. It was filled with malevolent chi that nourished the Nether Ghost Fire all year round, making it incomparably powerful. Even Emperor Realm experts were wary, and the true martial Tao body could not defend against it. He could only delay the speed of the Nether Ghost Fire burning flesh to the greatest extent and buy time for the martial Tao Prime body. The martial Tao Prime body released the martial Tao Purgatory and transformed into the martial Tao Furnace at the same time, trying to refine the Nether Ghost Fire continuously. The Nether Ghost Fire was way too strong. It was different from the 5 supreme flames he controlled. Furthermore, even if the martial Tao Prime body tried to smelt it with the 5 flames of the martial Spirit Fire, Red Lotus Karmic Fire, Tribulation Fire, Dragon Phoenix Flame, and Hellfire, he could not subdue it immediately. The martial Tao Prime body could only endure the pain patiently and maintain his consciousness. The harder the flames were to subdue, the greater the improvement for him once he controlled them. Furthermore, the martial spirit of the martial Tao Prime body was a purple flame, and no one could compare to his comprehension and perception of flames. If the refinement failed, he would try again. The cycle repeated again and again. The Nether Ghost Fire on the martial Tao Prime body did not extinguish the entire time. As time passed, the flesh on his body decreased. After an unknown period of time, another skeleton sat cross-legged on the endless skeletons in the depths of the 9 Nether Abyss. At that moment, the martial Tao Prime body did not have much flesh on him. Only a skeleton engraved with countless mysterious runes and intertwined with dermic das was left sitting there, bathed in dark green flames. Through the holes in the eyes of the skull, one could clearly see a purple flame floating behind his glabella. If the flesh of the martial Tao Prime body was completely burned by the Nether Ghost Fire, his essence spirit would be next. The Nether Ghost Fire did not burn bones. That was the reason why countless skeletons were piled up in this abyss. Time was running out. The martial Tao Prime body's heart was as calm as water. Apart from the dark green Nether Ghost Fire, there were 4 other flames floating beside him. The 4 flames circled continuously and resonated with the martial Spirit Fire behind his glabella. Suddenly, the skeleton shuddered and 2 dark green flames suddenly rose from the black holes in its eyes. It was the Nether Ghost Fire. The next moment, the aura of the skeleton changed drastically, as though it had fused with the surrounding Nether Ghost Fire. Although the Nether Ghost Fire was still burning on his body, he could no longer feel any damage. Instead, he felt a warm and comfortable feeling. Success. The martial Tao Prime body was delighted. Due to his cultivation realm, the Nether Ghost Fire released by him was far inferior to the Nether Ghost Fire in the 9 Nether Abyss. However, the surrounding Nether Ghost Fire could no longer hurt him. The next moment, countless flesh and blood grew rapidly on the skeleton, filling its entire body. Enveloped by the Nether Ghost Fire, the martial Tao Prime body reconstructed the true martial Tao body. At the same time, the aura in his body rose rapidly. Another powerful flame was added to the martial Tao Purgatory. The power of his domain increased exponentially, and the speed at which he refined sutras and secret skills increased as well. Be it the martial Tao Purgatory or reconstructing the true martial Tao body, they required a large amount of heaven and earth essence chi. Suddenly, The skeleton stood up and opened its mouth to inhale. Phew! Phew! An endless stream of ghost chi surged from the heavens and the earth, gushing towards the nine nether abyss as though it was being pulled by a powerful force. For ordinary cultivators, it was difficult for them to absorb ghost chi to cultivate. However, the martial Tao prime body had no reservations at all. A massive and dense ghost chi surged into the martial Tao purgatory and was instantly burned by the six supreme flames, refining the impurities. Only the incomparably pure heaven and earth essence chi was left to nourish the true martial Tao body. The flesh of the martial Tao prime body who had reforged the true martial Tao body was enriching rapidly, and his body gradually returned to normal. The martial Tao purgatory was also accumulating energy continuously and reaching its peak rapidly. Boom! A deafening bang sounded from the body of the martial Tao prime body. Instantly, the ground shook. An even more terrifying and larger domain burst forth instantly. Raging flames surged into the skies and even charged out of the nine nether abyss. The prime body took another step forward in the martial Tao realm. He had attained greater mastery of his martial domain realm. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.